This work session, regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, be advised that adequate notice of this work session, regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers, a list of dates annually, indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, January 28th, 2014. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather here today as members of the Township Council, we pray that we are ever mindful of opportunities to render our service to our fellow citizens and to our community. We should always keep in mind the enduring values of life, exerting our efforts in those areas and on those things upon which future generations can build with confidence. Let us continue to strive to make this world a better place. Amen.
Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Mayor Levine.
Here.
Councilman Prasad. Deputy Mayor Regan.
Here.
Councilwoman Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
Here.
Okay, thank you very much. We are following along on our agenda. You can feel free there by our clerk. Ms. McCarthy, get up at any time. It's not rude to get up and get them and the associated ordinance and resolutions at any time. We're glad to have you do that. Usually you can see what's happening at our meetings the weekend before on our website. Our agenda's on there. You can click on the resolutions, ordinances, and you can see what's happening. You can sign up for email alerts and such as that. So now on our agenda, we're at item number 5, commendations and proclamations, of which we are very proud and honored to be swearing in sergeant and new officers. That will be done by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy, and Deputy Mayor Brian Regan and I will join her, and our chief is going to join us too. Sorry. Oh, super.
Rob.
I, Robert Ellis,
I, Robert Ellis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly perform
impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of
all the duties of
Sergeant
Sergeant
of the Franklin Township Police Department
of the Franklin Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I'll start off. Rob was just promoted on our last promotion list, and Rob's a 10-year veteran of the police department. He came to us from the Middlesex Borough Police Department, where he worked for 2 years. He holds a master's degree, and prior to being promoted, Rob was assigned to the investigative division. I always laugh when I used to go up there, because I always like to say, I tell a deputy chief, Rob is a model employee. Doesn't say 2 words, like they all are. But I'm real proud of Rob. He'll do fine, and like we always like to laugh here at all promotion ceremonies, he will be assigned to the midnight shift, because that's where all new supervisors go. But I'm proud of him, and I'm sure he'll do a very good job. He's very professional, very thorough, and I think with a lot of new officers coming on, he'll lead them in the right direction. So congratulations, Rob. Nicholas.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Left hand, right, raise your right hand. I, Nicholas Gambino,
I, Nicholas Gambino,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
and to the governments established
in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly perform
impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of
all the duties of
police officer of the Franklin Township Police Department
police officer of the Franklin Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Nicholas, he just finished recruit training at the Somerset County Police Academy, and like I like to say to council, all of our recruits that came out of the academy were in the top percentage of their recruit class. He holds a 4-year degree from my alma mater, Trenton State, well, it's the College of New Jersey now, it shows how old I am, but Trenton State College, and Nick will be assigned, he's doing his field training program now, and then he'll be assigned to the patrol division, so we expect good things out of him, and congratulations.
I, Patrick Klein,
I, Patrick Klein,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United
of
States
the United States
and the Constitution
the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly perform
impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of police officer
all the duties of police officer
of the Franklin Township Police Department
of Franklin Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Patrick is another one that just graduated the Union County Police Academy, where he was in the top of his class, too. He holds a 4-year degree from Scranton University, and he speaks fluent Spanish. He studied abroad. So, Patrick, too, will be assigned to the patrol division, go through the field training, and that's where he'll be for a while. So we expect, like I said, a lot of good things out of Patrick, and we wish you good luck. I'm never going to let that go.
You want to hold the Bible?
Someone want to hold on?
There we go. I, Anthony Chiarella,
I, Anthony Chiarella,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the
of
Constitution
the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New Jersey,
of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith
I bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established
to the governments
in
established
the United States
in the United States
and in this state
and in this state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially, and justly perform
impartially, and justly perform
all the duties of police officer
all the duties of police officer
of the Franklin Township Police Department
of Franklin Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Congratulations, man. Now, I don't get to say this a lot because we don't get the opportunity, but Anthony was born in Franklin, went through Franklin's public schools, and he's a Franklin youth, so we get the opportunity for the first time in a long time to hire somebody from town.
Congratulations.
So it gave me great pleasure to do that. Before working here, Anthony worked in the summer at Seaside Heights, and he too will be assigned to the patrol division. Now, on another note, we were supposed to swear in Officer Craig Meyer, who graduated too, but sad incident happened Saturday night. His father, 52 years old, passed suddenly of a massive heart attack. So keep him in his thoughts and our prayers, and we will swear him in at a further date. But that's the reason we didn't swear him in tonight. And I just want to, thank the governing body again and the men and women of the Franklin Township Police Department, because without the governing body's support, letting me replace the bodies and promote, we wouldn't be where we're at. And I want to thank all the officers, because I do pride myself on having the most professional police department in the state of New Jersey. I know Bill Parente would disagree with me, but he works in North Plainfield, Patrick's father. But I'm very proud of everybody. They go out there, they do a great job, and they make the citizens proud. And, that's the best reward you could give a chief. So I just want to thank everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. It's really young. That's young.
Actually, since we're politicians, we're going to say something before everybody leaves. What kind of politician would we be if we didn't do that? So for council meeting with a celebration of installation of police officers and the promotion of a police officer. At this point, I know I'm officially getting old because one of my son's teammates wrestling at Franklin High School is now being installed as a police officer, so I'm old. The other note, adding another fine Irish police officer to the ranks, so that's always a good thing too. So it really is, for all the families coming out, again, congratulations to you. It's a great day to celebrate with your loved ones on this day. So again, thanks for coming, and we look forward to a lot of great work from our fine new officers and to the fine work the sergeant will do on his midnight shift.
Whenever I go around the state to speak to various events, I'm always touting our police officers, the men and women who make up our department and what they do as a whole. And again, I do get some arguments from some other neighboring towns, but I always say we've got the best police department in the state, everything from accreditation to our training to their being human beings to being the tough police officers when they have to. So for me, you make my job easy as mayor, going around and touting you. So I appreciate that very much. And for all our 65,000 residents and all the tens of thousands of people who come to work here during the day, they thank you for the protection and peace of mind that you give also. Appreciate that.
The big question is, Anthony's father plays in the seniors versus police softball game, and so does Anthony's uncle. So will Anthony be playing in that game, and will we have a family rivalry going on here?
No, because I'm not going to risk injury.
For those watching TV, the chief says he will not risk injury.
I just want to add my congratulations and to let everyone know how proud we are of all of you. And we know we have the best police department. We have the best police chief. That's why. So thank you all very much. And we look forward to your serving our community as your fellow officers have done previously. Thank you.
Are we all supposed to be signed?
I don't want to keep dragging on. Thank you so much. It's good to see someone who grew up in Franklin, I forget where he is, and born and raised, and now be able to serve the community and the rest of you. Congratulations.
This world chiming in.
Congratulations to everyone. As someone who has a long ancestral history of police chiefs, including my father, I am, delighted to see you getting sworn in and keeping up the tradition that the chief has set. So thank you, and thank you for all your hard work.
I'd also like to commend our chief for continuing to build our police department and to grow it in the manner and the fashion in which you've done over the years. We're also very proud of our police department, and you guys make Franklin the best place to live and to work, and thank you for all your hard work. Congratulations. Thank you.
So congratulations to our new and promoted police force members, and we have the accreditation to prove that we are a really top-flight police force, which we're very proud of, and I look forward to seeing some of you come down to my end of township.
Congratulations. See you out there on the street. Thank you very much.
Okay. Really.
Okay, thank you. We'll go on with our agenda now. Okay, we're at item number 6, which is the mayor's report. And my mug for this meeting is a tin cup, which actually says on it, USP Alcatraz, United States Prison Alcatraz. It was actually decommissioned in 1963. It's now a museum. It's protected by the National Park Service. I picked it up a few years ago near San Francisco when I was there. And two things it reminds me. First, it was a penitentiary to remind us of our swearing in of our new police officers. But when people entered there, they got this set of regulations, and one of them caught me, was regulation number 5, and it says privileges. You are entitled to food, clothing, shelter, and medical attention. Anything else that you get is a privilege. And that struck me because even today, where they had one of their entitlements was shelter, we still have to think about people who need affordable housing. And one of the things that was guaranteed to them that wasn't a privilege was medical care. And I think we still have to think about that as our society also. So generally, our meetings are the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. Exceptions are July, August, and December, where we only have meeting on the 2nd Tuesday. And we are extremely likely to have a few extra meetings for our budget this year, and we'll vote on that and announce it publicly. The couple of universal things over in Carteret last weekend, there was Karali Association, hope I pronounced that right. Karali? Oh yeah, Indian American Association, where I represented us. Assemblyman Shivakula was there, amongst others. I greeted them on our behalf. Again, over the weekend in East Windsor, Building One New Jersey, an organization trying to help the state more plan globally and be fairer in apportionment of funds. I was there also to speak on our behalf. Some things coming up. Our school, Sampson G. Smith, is having their play, Wizard of Oz. Go see them. It's great. Not only is there talent, you'll be amazed at the special effects a school like ours can have. So if you need more information, certainly look on our website, sign up for our notices. The other week, some electricity went out in part of town quickly. It was fairly quickly restored, but if you check the website, sign up for our notifications, you would have been told and kept abreast about what was happening on that. And for me, my Mayor Brian Levine, Facebook and Twitter, gives some information and some fun things. Contact any of us if anything is on your mind. And also, one other point, this time of year, our firefighters, our first aid squads are installing their new officers. So thank you to our volunteers. Congratulations. And just because I was given something by station number 26, I want to say for them, thank you very much. And they'll know what I mean, that's their coin. And that concludes the mayor's report. So now we have the deputy mayor's report from Deputy Mayor Brian Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this week, or a week ago Saturday, as deputy mayor, I had the opportunity to perform my first marriage. I want to thank the mayor for giving me the invite to attend. It was a real honor and a privilege to do that, considering it's actually the first marriage that I performed. So again, it was a joyous celebration, and I was very grateful to participate in that. Today's agenda, pretty much for the most part, is a pretty normal, average agenda, for the most part, taking care of business in the town. We started off, as you heard, and if you tuned in from the very beginning, you saw the swearing in of 4 new officers, plus a new sergeant. So, again, our police officer and our police in town, a very fine unit and one of the best we feel in the state. And again, with the accreditation that we've received, besides saying it, we back it up with state accreditation. Today on the agenda, we'll be hearing about single-stream recycling pilot program that's targeted for Franklin here. Again, as far as, one of the, in living in this town, we have a lot of beautiful scenery, country, we have urban, we have a lot of different types of areas to live in. And what is important in all those areas is how we conserve and how we treat the environment. And participating in this recycling pilot will be another important step in our view and our passion for the environment. We'll also hear about the 4th of July ceremony and an ordinance that is on for introduction tonight regarding the Hamilton Street Business Corporation, SID. So again, that's very important to specifically the 4th and 5th Ward of our town. Coming up this Saturday, I've been invited to attend the Somerset Fire District swearing in of installation of their offices, which is on Hollywood Avenue. So I'll be looking forward to attending that. So that's all for my report. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Now we're on our agenda. Come to item number 8, and Councilman Wright, did you want to?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry.
No, go
Mr.
ahead.
Mayor, at this time, I would like to rearrange our agenda and bring forth under number 10, council discussion items. A, the Somerset County Single Stream Recycling Pilot Program. I think Mr. McCall is here to make that presentation. And B, the Summerfield's Recreation obligation. Ms. Osipowicz and
Vince.
will come up and, I'm sorry? Will come up and do a presentation. And if I can squeeze in the 4th of July in the salary request from the Board of Fire Commissioners, I'll do that. But Ms. Osipowicz and Vince Dominic will bring forth the Summerfield's recreation obligation.
Okay, so you're asking for items 10, A, B, and C to be moved to now?
Right.
Okay. And the reason, putting a few words in Councilman Wright's mouth, is because there's some people here waiting who are going to give a presentation. So that'll take a few moments, and then when that's done, we'll come back to public discussion and follow on the agenda. So it's a motion to amend the agenda. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, pardon me.
Perhaps
Councilman
just
Creamer?
because there might be people waiting for public discussion, maybe we could do just A and B if that's okay with? Right. Okay.
Okay, so, okay, good. So Councilman Wright, you're good with that? And the seconder is okay with just A and B?
Yes.
I hear yes, okay. So thank you for that. Any other discussion? Okay. Moving A and B till now, immediately after this, and then coming back to public discussion and moving on with the agenda. Moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Okay, so Somerset County Single Stream Recycling Pilot Program, Mr. Paul McCall is here. So, welcome. Thanks for having it.
You can just grab the microphone off the podium.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Take it to the table. That's probably easier for you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to block anybody's view. Mayor and council, I appreciate you having me here tonight to talk about single-stream recycling. This is a pilot program that we started last year, and we started in Greenbrook and Southbound Brook, two small towns that we wanted to see how it would work and how beneficial it was. Then we wanted to start out with a large town, and Franklin Township, we came to them first. I spoke to Bob, and I met with Mayor Sherman, I'm sorry.
Deputy Mayor at that
I'm
time,
sorry.
but now Council.
Apologize, yes. Councilwoman Sherman.
Right.
Councilman Vasanella, and I believe we had one more, Councilman Chase over there we met, and talked about having this pilot program in Franklin Township. So they agreed to have me come here tonight to discuss it with you. And I just want to do a short presentation. I'll go through the slides relatively quickly. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So, collection of single-stream recycling. What I want to talk about is the introduction to single-stream recycling, how single-stream recycling works, the components of single-stream recycling, capital costs, which is important because this single-stream recycling pilot program is a contracted service. The county is not doing it. And in the capital costs, it's a brief explanation of why the county doesn't do it themselves, the advantages and disadvantages, because there are both. Single-stream recycling is not perfect, and there are advantages and disadvantages to it. The collection of single-stream recycling, and most importantly, community outreach. That is the most important thing out of any of the topics here, and the current results that we have in Southbound Brook and Greenbrook. So I'm not going to read the definition, but basically single-stream recycling is putting all of the recycling materials that you separate right now into one bin. I brought the bin with me. It's a 90-gallon tote in the back of the room, and it looks very big. It's, oh yes, I can bring it up.
I'll get it. I'll get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
I'll
Vince.
get it.
Okay,
I'll get it.
all right.
Anybody else?
I'm not going to.
Vince, you can get it.
There you-
Get it.
So,
I'm supposed to direct staff,
Yeah.
Councilman.
I brought the tote with me so you can see it, and also I would like to leave it here so residents can come in and see it and move it around. It is a 90-gallon tote, and all of your recycling goes in there. Glass, plastic, cans, newspapers, cardboard. If it fits in there, you put it in there. Has a lid on it, wheels. It looks very cumbersome to move, but it is very easy to move. I know Bob has it at home, and if you wanted to reach out and talk to Greenbrook or Southbound Brook, you can reach out to either their mayor, council, or a resident of theirs and see how they like it. Now, how it works. With this 96-gallon tote, what you do is you mix everything together. So, lift the lid off, and whatever you can stuff in this container that's recyclable, you put in there. No more cutting the cardboard into 2x2 sections. No more binding newspapers with twine. It all just throw it in there. Paper, everything. Now, sometimes people have a concern with the size of it because they think it's very cumbersome. But it's actually, and if you, I'll leave it here for you, but it's very easy to move around, even when it's full of recycling, because you know recycling doesn't weigh a lot. This is not the same type of tote as a tote you would use for garbage. It's a lighter weight plastic. It's not that heavyweight plastic because it doesn't have the heavy materials in there. Now, the components in single stream is very easy. It's a truck, which is we call a one-arm bandit, and the recycling tote. What the truck does, it has a claw, it reaches around the container. These lips here are what keeps the claw from sliding off when they lift it up, and they dump it into the back of the truck. They put the container down and they move on to the next stop. It's a one-person operation that they drive the vehicle, and that's all there is there. Now, why the county isn't doing it ourselves is there is a large capital cost to single-stream recycling. The vehicles themselves are about $250,000, and our fleet obviously is not one-arm bandits. And the processing plant for single stream is completely different than the processing plant for dual stream, which we have now. So at the time, now this is This is an estimation from maybe 3 years ago already, and it was $12 million to build a single stream plant. So at that point, when we sat down and we looked at this, we figured, that's not something we can put the expense out for. There's companies that are out there that will do it now, and it's more beneficial to the people of Somerset County for us to contract this service out and see how it works. So that's why we moved on to putting a spec together and contracting it out. Now, what are the advantages of single stream recycling? Obviously, there's a reduced sorting effort by residents. You don't have to sort anything, throw it in the container. Reduced collection costs. It is a lot, once some of these larger companies who have these huge fleets of one-armed bandits, the collection cost is a lot less because you have one person on a truck instead of 3, which we sometimes have. Also, there's less, workman's comp issues. People aren't getting injured. People aren't getting hit by cars. And the driver really isn't getting out of the vehicle, so it is a safer collection. He pulls up to it, the arm comes out, he dumps it, he puts it down, or she, and they move on. And it is a larger container, so you can fit a lot of recycling in there, and it's covered. As I'm sure many of you know, when it snows, it's windy, it's rainy, the material gets wet, it blows all over the place, it makes a mess. With this, we have had no issues with any of those types of things in Southbound Brook and Greenbrook. Now, the disadvantages, which there are, the cost of vehicles, the upgrading of the processing facility, which we talked about, and the processing costs may increase compared to the multi-stream systems. Most single-stream processing plants are automated. There's very few people that work there, and it runs off of air and electric eyes and magnets we have ourselves. And there's very few QA/QC people there to pull things out. So the cost of processing increases because of the type of equipment. Now, the commodity prices is also a disadvantage of single-stream recycling, and it's not because the way it's put in the container, it's the way it's processed after it goes to a plant. There are some companies, and I don't know if everybody's heard of China's green fence. China put up the green fence basically for recycling materials that was getting shipped to them that was basically garbage. So because China wanted the material, they were paying the price. People were mixing, for instance, in the tin or the steel cans, they were putting engine blocks in between there and compacting steel cans around it and shipping it to China. They were putting garbage in with the plastic. So once the economy in China went down a little bit, they said, well, wait a minute, we're not going to accept this garbage. So they started sending it back. So now there are the companies that do a very good job, and we've toured these companies. I don't want to name who they are, but we've toured quite a few companies who have single stream processing plants. And one of them does a very good job. You'd think it was dual stream, and the other one is so bad that you don't wonder why they're shipping the stuff back. So that is a concern, but since the green fence has been put up, these companies who aren't processing it properly are starting to say, okay, we need to get more QA/QC people to make sure the stuff is sorted properly. The advantage and the disadvantage of it's a large tote. It's, as you can see, it's very big. It is easy to move, but some people have complained about a place to put it. We did have one person who refused to take the tote, and that was out of, I can't remember how many households are in the two, maybe 5,000 altogether in the two towns. One person refused the tote. Luckily enough, we still picked up dual stream right next door to them because they were on the border of two towns. So we were able to give them the blue buckets. Obviously, when we switch over to all single stream sooner or later, they're going to get a tote. But that is one of the disadvantages. And the placement of the tote. Now, when they place the tote, the one of the things is this tote has to face out, and you really have to have an area around it where the arm can reach around. So if you have a car parked like this, you can't put the tote like this because it can't be picked up. So it has to have some space around it so the arm can get around to clamp it and pick it up. Now, we have had a few issues in Southbound Brook that were rectified because there was a lot of on-street parking, but people are able to put it in the driveways, or they move the car and then they put it in place. But it has to be in an area where that arm can get to it. Where right now people put their recycling buckets everywhere and we walk around cars or whatever we have to do. So that is a change. collection. Now, we do residential houses, select condo and townhome associations. One of the lessons we learned from Greenbrook and Southbound Brook is all condo and townhome associations won't accept these totes. So luckily enough, in Southbound Brook, I don't know if they're townhomes or condos, but townhome association, they said, well, since they're all the same, we'll accept them and they can use them. In Greenbrook, we had we had two issues. One was the association didn't want those totes, so we weren't able to put them in there, so we still picked that up dual stream. And the other one was that they're not allowed to keep their recycling buckets on the first floor, so the people have to carry their buckets up to the third floor of their house and keep them up there. They're not allowed to have them outside. So obviously those places can't have the totes. What we learned from that is we need to reach out to those places first and find out who can and who can't, because obviously if they have to climb it up to the second or third floor, they're not getting the totes. We're going to stay with the blue buckets and we'll just pick those up. But that's something we have to look into. And small businesses can get the totes, but they don't get charged to the municipality. They pay it on their own. So we send a separate bill to a business who wants it. In Southbound Brook, there were businesses that wanted the tote, small business, so we're able to put it there and we have a charge for that. So that's not added on to the township's bill that they would get for recycling. Now, community education and training, this is the most important aspect of the single stream recycling. We found out doing Greenbrook and Southbound Brook, even though they were small towns, we did not do enough outreach to the community. We would obviously need Franklin's assistance with that, with email blasts, newspaper articles, maybe municipal TV ads. But we would meet with residents, condo, townhome associations, community groups, come to town meetings. We had a couple town hall meetings with Greenbrook and Southbound Brook to invite the residents out to come down and talk and ask questions, and we're happy to do all of those things because education is the key with this. And, you know, with change, nothing is ever easy. It's going to be painful, and it was painful in Southbound Brook and Greenbrook, very small scale compared to Franklin, for about a month. Most of our complaints were that the tote was too big until the people, we told them, well, go out and try. They didn't want to move it from the curb. We put them out, and they said, I'm not going out. And once they realized how easy it was, they loved it. So mostly it was that, and I think the other complaints were, can I have another one? And the totes are not free. If somebody wants another one, they have to pay a $50 charge, but that's just to use the tote. We own the tote, but that's for them to use it for the extent of the program. So you'll basically have it forever, but if you move, you can't take the tote with you, you know, to wherever. Not that we're going to chase people down, but, you know, it's supposed to stay with the house. So,
Stays with that.
yeah. So our current results right now in Greenbrook, we had a 20% increase in recycling. Our complaints went way down, and actually we don't get anything but praises now. We really don't get any complaints at all, unless somebody has a broken wheel, which we go out and replace the tote, we pick it up, or they missed our stop. Now, I will say, our recycling division works whether it rains, snows, it makes no difference. Even if the county's closed, we're picking up recycling, not in the hurricane. I mean, I'm sorry, not in, the hurricane, we didn't pick it up. But other than that, we pick it up. The contractor does not pick it up when there's a lot of snow. They pick it up the next day. They don't send their drivers out. So that's just a little feather in our cap and the mail didn't even get delivered that day. So I think we're the only ones who could say we worked in rain, snow, sleet, hail.
Wait till Canal Road floods. We'll see.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, that one might have to wait till the next day. You're correct. So, and like I mentioned before, the condo associations we really have to talk to, and then the public outreach. Southbound Brook, there's been an 8% increase, and I already spoke about the condo associations and the outreach. Does anybody have any questions?
I just have one. I'm thinking of my own personal driveway and the narrowness of it. Do you do anything to be out of sync with garbage collection? Because I don't think I'd be able to get out of my driveway if both my garbage can and my recycling were at the bottom.
I don't know if your garbage pickup is on the same. Right now, the schedule will stay the same. Franklin's recycling date would not change.
that would work for me, but I'm just
Oh.
wondering other people.
Oh, for other
I'm
people,
generalizing.
yes, and that
Garbage
could be an
collection is
issue.
private, so it'll vary all over the
Oh,
place for
okay.
people. We don't
I
do that.
got you. Yeah, it's, basically, the recycling day is going to stay the same. One day, they'll have blue buckets, the next day, we'll drop off a tote. And what we do in Southbound Brook and Greenbrook is, the people have the ability to keep the blue bucket, because we can't really use it to give it to someone else, but if they don't want it, we will take it. We do use it in our parks and around our facilities, or if somebody's having some type of event, a municipality, and they need recycling buckets, we loan them to them. So we do take them, or the people can keep them.
Okay, yeah. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. So, yes, I guess a question, because the last thing you said about we pick up, so the state holidays, you'll pick up on a state holiday?
Yes, if we pick up Franklin, so for instance, there are certain holidays that we don't work.
Okay.
We don't work Christmas, we don't work New Year's Day, but we pick it up the next day.
Okay.
So however your recycling schedule is now will be exactly the same.
Okay.
You know,
And the one thing I didn't see up there on either pros or cons is cost
okay.
to the town. Is it-
Sure.
Am I going to see it as as a pro, or is it
But,
going to
yeah,
see it as a?
It was a pro for Southbound Brook and Greenbrook. We charge $23.85 per household per year for the municipality. It came in at $22.56, so it did come in quite a bit less. I will say that what we did learn is we need to put an administrative charge in there, because we're still going to operate the program. We don't know what that's going to be yet, but we're going to take the complaints. We're still going to be picking up blue buckets in certain places if we have to, and we're going to be replacing the buckets. So we're still going to run the program. So there is an administrative, we didn't do that in Greenbrook and Southbound Brook, and now all of our costs, which in Greenbrook and Southbound Brook, it's not that much. It's a very small community. So we are going to have to, we don't know what it's going to be yet. Obviously, we're not going to say we want $10 extra a household. I mean, it's not prudent to do that. Now, do we know what the price is going to be for Franklin? We don't, but we know what you're paying now. So at that point, when we go out to bid, if it comes in above the $23.85, we're going to have to talk about that.
Okay.
If it becomes, it's not that if it comes in above $23.85, I mean, I think there's going to be a concern then, because why would you want to switch to something if you're going to have to pay more? To me, that's when we'd come back and say, listen, the bids came in at this. We gotta sit down and talk about this. We're not just going to say, okay, now all of a sudden you're going to pay $25.85 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So no, there's going to be controls on that, but we don't know what the companies are going to bid. I'm assuming that they're going to bid a low price, because it's a very large volume of material.
Right.
So, and hopefully that raises the tonnage report for Franklin, and then you collect more money in the end.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to add,
Mayor?
and Paul just sort of hit on it. If we see an increase in our tonnage, we see an increase in our state tonnage grant that we receive annually for recycling. So there's certainly a motive to try to increase our residents and businesses in their recycling. The more we get, the more we get.
Yep.
Councilman Fasenella?
Yeah, that's not what I was going to ask, but since you mentioned it, that there is, I don't want to say it will definitely happen, but very likely that we will have a small increase, as the manager referred to, because the tonnage increases, our revenue increases.
Yes, it's.
And that's directly to us, separate from.
that's
Yeah,
directly to
I don't know
you,
if
yes.
everybody in the audience are
Oh, okay.
watching this perhaps.
Mhm.
What we pay you is separate. You're going to continue to manage a program. But
Yeah.
what we get from the state in the form of a payment each year is specific to tonnage, has nothing to do with the rest of the cost of.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. So you'll still get that.
So two things I wanted to mention was, I know when you were in to our Public Works meeting and telling us about it, and I think we were all very eager and optimistic about this happening, you mentioned, or we talked about a tentative rollout time of perhaps maybe July 1st. If you can elaborate on that a little bit. And then the one other thing I'm going to mention, we also talked, you probably recall, about the outreach. I'm sure everybody needs outreach township-wide, but I would imagine that probably our senior clubs, because it is a big difference, not to suggest our seniors aren't capable, but this is a massive difference.
Oh, yes.
Even so, it's lighter, it's still different. And then you mentioned where the houses are close together, and it's could be anywhere in town, but I know specifically in the Fifth Ward and areas around Hamilton Street, you get side streets where this is going to be very difficult. And there's hardly
Yes.
room sometimes to even walk or get in and out of your driveway. So anyway, just as far as the outreach, and of course, we can use our communication tools, our newsletter, our TV station, et cetera, to maybe even do some focused messages where, you know, you can deal with the different issues that. So if you can elaborate on the timeline.
Sure. Well, what I wanted to do tonight was come and speak to mayor and council about this, and then start to speak with the condo association, start to get the outreach set up where we can talk to these different groups, the senior groups. And I know we had a gentleman who worked for us who was mad. He retired. He was an older gentleman, retired, and he has a cane. So he was very mad that we gave him this tote until he actually used it. And then he realized this is much easier for him than carrying his recycling buckets down his driveway. So the time frame we're looking at is we wanted to start it, we wanted to do outreach, and then we have to put a specification together, we have to count households, and the households are actually counted manually. It's not just done by a census. We go out, we send someone out, and they count every single household because you have some 3- and 4-family houses. We learned our lesson, and we learned a lot of lessons from Greenbrook and Southbound Brook, which was good. That's why we started the pilot program on smaller municipalities. You know, if we start on something big, we didn't really learn everything we needed to know, so we did learn a lot of lessons, and one of them was those, because it might only be listed as one property, but it has 3 or 4 meters on the side. And we missed some, and that's people from Southbound Brook, I think it was that house. It was a 4-family, and we only had it as a 2-family. But they said, oh, no, there's 4 meters here. You have to, you know. So we count every house individually, and we'd get all those things together, put the specifications, go out to bid, and then start the program hopefully in July. Now, we want to make sure we do it right. We want to make sure we inform the residents. We want to make sure that we answer questions. And like I said, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a painful process. It's not an easy process. I don't want to, you know, sugarcoat it. You know, some people are going to complain, and there's going to be some issues. But in the end, I think Franklin Township and the residents are going to benefit greatly from having this single-stream program. Not only monetarily, because they should be paying less per household, but at the end of the year, when your tonnage report comes out, I mean, Franklin is our largest producer of recycling. And if your tonnages go up 20%, to me, that means your return coming back from the state for your recycling tonnage grant money is going to go up 20%. So I think it'll be benefit, and I think it's going to be much easier. What we found in Greenbrook and Southbound Brook is they recycle a lot more paper, because you don't have to tie it.
Mr. Mayor.
But I'm sorry, you wanted to know about the timeline. We're hoping for July 1st. If we're not comfortable that the outreach is done and that people are educated, we might have to wait a little longer. But July 1st, we'd like to do it. And we did Greenbrook and Southbound Brook in a winter month, and it wasn't, we learned not to do it in the winter months, I'll say that. One of the things, though, is with this is we do need large areas to store. Not that we have to, but we like to have large areas in the municipality to store the totes so they can be delivered. But that's something that we talked about at a later date. But
Councilwoman.
I'm not sure. if
No, go
someone
ahead.
did that and
Go.
asked first.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Sherman?
I was a little confused, Paul, your comment about charging small businesses.
yes.
Why are they being treated differently, and wouldn't we encourage them to recycle? Why are we charging them, and what are we charging them for?
Okay, so for instance, each resident gets charged $23.85 to get their recycling picked
Okay.
up. So what we do is we charge businesses, and I don't remember the number. It's more than $23.85 because we have to bill them individually.
I
So when we
see.
bill Franklin, we bill you as an entire
Oh, so
township.
every business is billed separately?
Every business is billed separately.
Oh.
So this tote, if you're a small business, and some people use the blue buckets, but we can give you this tote, so you'll pay, I don't want to say a number because I don't remember what it was.
Right.
But whatever it is, it's not much more than the $23.85, but you'll pay that per year per business. So then they're able to recycle, and they may not be recycling now, you know, because they might not have anywhere to get rid of it. It might just go in their dumpster, or something like that, but it gives them the opportunity to use the tote and get picked up at a very low cost to the business.
Right.
And that tonnage counts towards, obviously, Franklin's
Yeah,
tonnage.
that would be better. I don't recall whether the question was asked or answered, is when you do go, are you doing it all when you go live on this? All at once, or is it
Yes.
phased?
No, it's all at once. We had talked about phasing it in, and some of the difficulties are when you get to some areas where maybe one side of the street is getting recycling pickup and the other isn't, they're questioning why not. Plus, Franklin is all picked up in the same day. So for us to be out picking up Franklin with the blue buckets and other people with the totes, we found that might not be the most efficient way to do it, that we think let's roll it out in the entire township, have everybody treated the same, start at the same time, and we're going to get a lot of phone calls, and there's going to be a lot of things to fix. I'm not dreaming over here that there's not going to be any issues. I mean, that's going to happen. So, but I think once we get Franklin done and on board, people are going to realize that this is the way to go. You know, that this can work in not only small municipalities, but very large municipalities, which Franklin is our largest municipality, so.
Okay, Councilman Chase?
I think your best means of outreach will be through the township newsletter, which comes out 3 times a year and really goes to every household. Although my end of town, where the mail comes from Princeton, the delivery is not a little capricious. I think we just got the other day the December 1st newsletter.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
but most of the township, you get it out. And
Okay.
I think Franklin is collected on 2 different days, the northern half and the southern half.
Yes, we do have
are
the
on
Franklin
different
breakouts that
days.
we collect with Montgomery.
Yeah.
You're right.
But, and I'm sure, well, what I'm thinking of is where am I going to put this in the garage? I'm going to have to tell my wife she's going to have to get rid of some of the stuff she has stored in her side. of
Just
the
whatever you do, don't blame me.
But I can see that this will be a step forward, and I think many of us have curbside garbage collection in the same way with the one-armed
Okay.
truck, so we're very used to that means
Yes.
of collection, and, yeah, getting it out to the curb will be easier,
Okay.
unless you have a very long driveway.
And I'm glad you brought up the very long driveway. We did have some people who said in Greenbrook that my driveway is very long. I used to put my recycling bucket in the back seat of my car and drive it down. And, well, that's what they used to do. So what they learned is they found ways to attach this to the back of the car or vehicle and then drive it down and then unhook it and put it down.
Sounds
But
like
you're
a
right.
Geico commercial.
So there's some long driveways on South Middlebush Road that people would have to walk these totes down. And I lived in Franklin for half my life, so I used to ride my motorcycle all over the place, so I know some of the areas.
I'm thinking of several on Canal Road,
And they have hills and,
you know.
yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
And, yes, Councilman Kramer?
Vacant homes, are they going to count?
No, if there's no one in the house, we don't leave a tote. And we know which ones those are because we find out from a municipality which ones are not occupied, so they don't get a tote and that they don't get billed to you. But when someone moves in and they request a tote, that's when we would start doing that.
And then what about complicated pieces such as my vacuum cleaner breaks, so it's got plastic and metal, but they're all assembled. Can I recycle that or no?
Vacuum cleaners should not be put in, even though there are plastic parts that are probably recyclable and metal parts that are, it's not the type of recycling that we would pick up at the curb. That's more or less something that would go to, like Somerset, the scrapyard, Somerset
Sure.
Recycling, something like that.
So you want, any piece is 100% a thing, and then the next piece is something else?
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. And what we do is we have on top of all these buckets, and it's very small writing, but it has what you can recycle in the tote. So it says it right on top. I'm not saying these are going to last forever because they're not. But in the beginning, people will know it'll be there. They can look at it and say, okay, we can put these things in there. And then, the one other good advantage of this single stream is we ever decide to add anything to this, it's very easy to do. We say, okay, now we can recycle this, just throw it in the tote.
Okay. And Councilwoman Francois?
So is this going to be an elective process when you roll it out? Do I say I want it, or do I say I don't want it?
No, it's, once we do it, that everybody goes.
So you're
Like I
going to
said-
go around and drop them off in people's
Yes.
driveways?
Yeah, what we do is we would let everybody know when we're going to drop them off. And basically, I don't know that we can get Franklin done on their recycling day, but that's when we would do it, is when we would pick up, our county truck would go by, pick up the blue bucket, and then behind them, the contractor would come and drop off the tote. And we would leave the blue bucket. Now, and anybody calls us and says, we don't want the blue bucket, we come and pick it up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
And does this affect, like, businesses or shopping centers that have dumpsters?
It does not.
Okay.
No, and what we are doing, and I will say this, Somerset County has a business recycling program that we've opened up, because there are a lot of businesses that aren't recycling. So we're reaching out to them to offer them, through our recycling program, dumpsters, pickup, monthly or bi-weekly or weekly pickup. So we are doing that throughout the county. So we're trying to get that going. We started last year with a letter to every business in the county. So we did mailing lists, mailed to every business. Actually, a lot of tonnage reports came back that way, and the township's tonnage for last year should be, well, we're still, I think we're on 2011s from the state, but it's going to be a couple years, but the tonnages, I think, in Franklin doubled from doing those business letters. So we're reaching out to businesses because we want them to recycle also. And we do get a lot of phone calls about where I work, they don't recycle, and so we're trying to work with them also.
All right, thank you.
So this is not up to council, it's basically you're going to do it? We
The
have no
single stream
choice.
recycling, the entire county, sooner or later, is going to go to single stream recycling if it's run through the county.
My question is,
yeah.
is this something we're going to vote on, or no, you're just?
I don't think you have to vote on it, but I mean, if the entire council decided, we don't want you to use Franklin as our pilot program, I mean, okay, we might have to move on to a different municipality, but sooner or later, it would come to, we're going to be single stream. So, I mean, I'd like the council to be, for it. I mean, I wouldn't want to run this pilot program and the whole entire council's against it. I mean, that's not beneficial to anyone, but yes, we'd like to move forward with this. So, we'd like the council to be, and the mayor to be on board.
Okay. Anything else? All right, Mr. McCall, thanks a lot. Appreciate the time you gave us. Oh, Mr. Dominic?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Okay. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Holding the mic.
Okay, appreciate it very much. Informative.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And you want me to put that on the hallway or just leave it there?
Sure. Maybe we can leave it in our lobby.
Put it out by,
So people know, so
you can
people
put it out by
know.
Mr. Kramer's
It wouldn't hurt to
driveway.
have one
You can go
down the
to
road.
hospital.
Next flood.
I'm sorry, I don't want to speak at third. Mayor,
Okay, yeah, Councilman
it
Bass.
wouldn't hurt, I think, to have one on display eventually, obviously do in conjunction with our manager at the senior center and in the lobby here, because a lot of people, especially the ones that take a very active interest in what's going on.
Some more totes tomorrow.
Give me a call, we'll get them where they need to go.
Okay. The next, thanks, Mr. McCall, again. The next item on our agenda is 10B, and then we'll go to public discussion. This was moved earlier. Summerfield's recreation obligation, Summerfield's, that's on the new Summerfield's development, that's near Canal Walk. And we pretty much have to decide tonight on going ahead with this. And in our packet, so to speak, packet page 10, there's a rendering of this recreation field building being built by the developer at Summerfields. And
Mr. Mayor,
Dominic?
it's really the culmination of the whole process.
Okay.
Again, many years ago, negotiating a developer's agreement, when you had the recreation needs study, it was included in that. The Recreation Advisory Board passed a resolution recommending it. This is really the final step. It's in all of our planning documents The council has to take formal action to say, yes, that's what we want to do, so that we can notify the developer, because he has a specific time period that he has to build it. So once the council says, yes, they're okay with the plans as outlined in the memo, and as per the diagram on the second page, we can notify him, and then he can start the development.
Okay, so we have to have an affirmative vote. Can we do that by a voice vote?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, if there's no discussion...
Councilman Chase.
Oh, Councilman Chase, go right ahead.
I believe at one point, this was being held up because there was some question as to whether the Canal Commission would approve the driveway up from Western Canal Road. Has that been dealt with?
We've dealt with those issues. There will be certain permits that they will have to procure, and we will assist them in that, but we've dealt with those issues.
Okay, either questions or a motion to go ahead with the Summerfield
Mayor?
recreation?
Question, Mayor?
Well, just,
Councilman Kramer?
I noticed some people, such as Ms. Sayer here, and perhaps she wanted to speak about it during public session. So I'm wondering if we might want to open up a brief public session specifically for this, in case someone was here for that. I'll make that motion.
Not working.
Second.
What's that?
Oh, maybe I can just show it. Does anyone want to speak on this from the public? Okay, no one seems to want to, so never mind.
Mr. Mayor?
Specifically on the park,
And then in a moment, we're going to come back to general public discussion.
because we moved this in front of the public discussion. I didn't want to
Okay.
cut someone out.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay, yes, Councilman
I
Wright?
make a motion that we approve the Somerset, excuse me,
I had a question.
the
That's okay. We'll move
Summerfield's
to second and have
recreational.
discussion. No, go ahead.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Discussion?
I just had a
Councilman
question,
Martinelli?
Mayor. I see on the diagram, and maybe I just don't see it, on the diagram, the concept plan, it had 2 bocce courts.
The bocce courts are not included. That was an original concept plan from 8, 9 years ago. Those will not be built.
So, not suggesting there's a tremendous demand, but I remember about 12 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, like you were saying, 9, whatever, this being earmarked as the only place in the entire township that they'd have a couple of them.
No.
So, is there any others
Colonial Park.
that, I'm talking about our town parks.
Mm-hmm.
Is there actually any that exist in any municipal parks or at all township-wide?
Not in the municipal
Lewis?
parks. I mean, technically, there's room, but it's a matter of, it's not in the original agreement for the developer, and then you need to figure out how, if you're going to assume the cost for that.
Oh, I thought it was always in the concept plan.
I think this was the drawing that was done by Branstetter Carroll, but I don't believe from, reading the whole document here that that was ever included in any of the negotiations with the developer.
Well, if it was in the original plan,
That was in
whatever.
the Branstetter Carroll Rec Needs Assessment Plan,
Yeah,
not in
the-
the developer's agreement.
Yeah, the original plan only had a baseball and a softball field and
Yeah.
some ancillary parking. When we did the needs assessment, they did some all drawings, and they included the bocce. When we amended the developer's agreement, we added some basketball courts, and we removed the bocce.
Okay, so the only thing I would say, not trying to hold this up, but it would be nice in our 47 square miles and all of what we're doing relevant to our needs assessment, if they could be, a couple of them slipped somewhere in the township. So I don't want to hold this up, but I and the handful of people who had some interest just didn't realize it wasn't going to be, it was, whatever you want to call it, negotiated out or not negotiated in, because it was in all the previous. But if you or any other council seat has a problem with it, I'm fine. We'll find a home somewhere down the road for one, somewhere else.
Excuse me,
Mayor?
I just wanted to make sure that,
Councilman Wright,
I'm sorry,
Councilman Prasad, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh,
No, I have a question.
I was just going to say, to echo those sentiments, that it was Branstetter Carroll that had all that information in it, and not Somerville, what was coming back from us. So that's the difference between the two. And the Recreation Council, Advisory Council, which I'm on, we looked at that and basically came to our conclusion that it would be nice, but it was not part of the original agreement. It didn't have the money to fund it, so it was not included.
So
Okay, Councilman
work on
Prasad,
it
then
going
go
forward.
back, go ahead.
Yeah, Vince, I was on the planning board, and at that time, the developer had offered us some land on Meddler's Road for a cricket field. And I don't know whatever happened to that. I know it's not related to this, but there was an offer from them for a cricket field, and Ken Daly came to me all excited at that time.
Yeah, there were that was part of the negotiations about where they were going to provide it, what they were going to be providing. The original developers agreement, when we talked about the cricket field, was about a year before that. The original developers agreement did not include the cricket field. It included the softball field and the baseball, so.
I can add something. There have been recent discussions with the property owner about that property in particular that exists, that is at the corner of Metlers and Schoolhouse, and the potential development of that property. I don't want to get into any great details on that. However, it has also included the possibility of a portion of that property being deeded to the township as recreational open space. So that, what you're talking about, Councilman Prasad, is still not off the table. There's discussions that have been had recently about that particular piece of property.
Okay, because, you know, in that new development there, you've got about 300 Indian families that have moved in, and they would love to have a cricket field.
No, I certainly understand. Anyway, I should also take note that the county built 2 cricket fields right around the corner that'll be in use hopefully by next year, based on the grass growing.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think
Councilman
we're ready
Reagan
for
and
the...
Councilman
I
Wright?
think we're ready for
Oh, well, I
the
was
vote.
going to ask for the vote, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, could I just add one point, because I know Nancy was an advocate for this, that the Branstetter Carroll plan shows a softball field, but the Rec Council's recommendation is for a baseball field, because we do not have one baseball field on any municipal property. So, we do get calls, about having a baseball field available for, for children and from adults in the community. So we would strongly advocate and, want to have it on the record that Rec Council feels that this would be an ideal location to add an actual baseball field.
Okay, Councilman Chase?
Can you play softball on a baseball field?
Sure.
I have seen it done, and I've seen softball played on a baseball field. It's not an ideal situation. It's probably easier in the long run later on to shave the field and take the mound off. But you can't, I think it's more difficult to go in there and change the use to a softball field. Just the fact that really, other than on school property, there isn't a baseball field other than at the Little Leagues. So it's
It has been done, and they're locally, not in Franklin Township, but there are a number of fields locally that are both regulation-sized baseball fields, and in front of the mound, which is 60 feet away on a regulation field, there's a 45-foot mound for softball. Softball generally is just a flat area, not an inclined area like on a baseball field. So the answer, Councilman, is yes, you can certainly play softball on a regulation-sized baseball field.
Move up about
Now,
15 feet the pitch.
I ask because I think I was the one who originally suggested a softball field. The very first proposal had 2 soccer fields, and what I had in mind was that I know that a lot of residents of Canal Walk play softball, and therefore this would be very convenient to Canal Walk for Canal Walk softball players. I guess, of course, if you play on a baseball field, if it goes past the outfielders, they have to run a lot further to get the ball.
Okay, if nothing further, we can go to our vote. All in favor of approving it, as given here, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Good, we're getting some more recreation here. So now we will go back to our agenda, item number 9. Sorry, number 8, council discussion, then we'll come to council comments, and then we'll come back to items 10.
You have to go to public
C and
discussion.
D. I'm sorry, did I say that wrong? Pardon me.
Yeah.
Sorry, go to 8, public discussion, then council comments, and then come back to 10, C and D. So, we're at public discussion. So, At public discussion, our policy is, people, please come up, tell us anything that's on your mind, come up. We'll have a timer for 5 minutes, and after 3 minutes, a tone will go off. After 5 minutes has elapsed, there'll be multiple tones. Please direct all your comments to the council. People can come up once per meeting, as is our policy. And if we can answer things when you direct your questions to us, we will be glad to do so. So is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on any item of interest. And please note, we're being audio and videotaped. When you come up to the microphone, come up, keep yourself about 3 or 4 inches. That way we can hear you and the audio picks you up properly. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand when I recognize you. Come to the podium and give us your name and address, please. Mr. Giannato? Then you can come up next.
Good evening, Council. You'll have to excuse me tonight. I've got a slight cold or something, hay fever or some damn thing, but my nose is continually running, so excuse me.
You might want to speak up.
Yeah, all right, try a little. How's that? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. I'm here to talk about the Hamilton Street business entity and the ordinance that's proposed. I believe it's ordinance number 4053-14.
Yeah. Yes.
I had placed calls to most of the council people, and the ones I didn't reach, I'm sorry, I couldn't get through to you. And then I emailed our concept of what we thought a management corporation would be according to the Improvement District regulations through the DCA. We used the DCA as our guide to put together all the bylaws and the documents that we emailed you. Now, if you haven't gotten a copy, I have one here. If you'd like to have it, just ask at the end of the meeting and I'll give it to you. However, our bylaws are only maybe 5 pages, very concise and specific to SIDS or management corporations for SIDS. And it delineates exactly how we were going to function as an organization. And beyond that, we also had put together other documents to further this process. We had a nomination petition because the interim board of directors that we voted on will be replaced, or we're going to be replaced within 3 to 6 months through a voting process. And you needed to fill out an application to become a possible officer. We also made a proxy vote in case you couldn't make the meeting. We have together a registration form that was necessary to join the Hamilton Street Merchants Association, as we call ourselves. We put together a work plan as to who we were going to attract and how we were going to do it. And there are a number of agencies on here, including banks and corporations, the federal, state, the police department, the fire emergency organization, and the SID advisory committee with the DCA at Trenton. We have been invited to join that organization so that we could use them as an associate member and hopefully sometime get to a full member position. We also then put together a flow chart, a colored flow chart as to how we were going to utilize our interim board and then go through the process of election and get into the full board, and then how that board was going to be broken down into committees. And then beyond that, we wrote a mission statement, not very extensive, a one-page mission statement, but it was very specific and precise as to what we thought the management company should do to make the SID work and function. And then we had a resolution written by our attorney for the council to recognize us. Now, all that said, I was not included in the loop of the negotiations to get to the point we're at now. In fact, I didn't know until Friday that this ordinance was going to be put up for discussion tonight. So I wasn't fully prepared, and I couldn't get the state people who have commented on this proposal. Excuse me. to come here tonight and speak. However, the next meeting that you have, I believe, is a public meeting to discuss this very issue. And they have advised me that they will attend and give their point of view as to what ramifications there are for doing this organization that you want to use as the management company. As I was talking to some of the members, some of the council members, I found out that, or realized that they didn't know me. And so I thought I would give you a brief synopsis of who I am and what I've done in the past 20 years, and not go back into my complete history and my education. I go back to '91. In fact, Councilwoman Francois and I were working with the First Baptist Church to see if we could improve that area. I happened to own a business on 27 at that time, so I was very interested as to where this was going to go. And then through the years, until 1998, when I was assigned a position with the Somerset County Economic Incentive Committee to give grant money, they had about $10 million they were going to give out in grants to certain towns.
That's 5 minutes, you have to wrap
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry. Let me run through what I've done. Anyway, I guess the biggest...
You have to be quick, go ahead.
Yeah, a little background on me is that I was the director of the community development in Sayreville. And in my department was the engineering department, the zoning department, the construction department, fire, and health. Of course, I had all subordinates running those departments, but I was in charge of all those. And being a community development director, it brought me into improvement districts. And apparently my time is running out. So to wrap up, there's one other thing that there's some idea out there that I bullied my way into a position on the Hamilton Street Board. I'd like to correct that and say that fortunately God has given me some more time on this earth, including the doctors who were very instrumental in making me as healthy as I am today. And I don't use bully tactics. I use diplomatic tactics throughout my entire life. So I find it offensive that someone would say that about me. And in fact, I wouldn't get involved with that association until they assured me that they were going to follow parliamentary procedures and the bylaws that were written. And we were officially recognized and voted in. However, apparently those board members at that time weren't voted in properly, and so there were only 3 board members, and they were the council. May I have someone else follow me to continue with what I'm saying?
And anyone else who wants to speak is entitled to speak, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, they can't give you their time, but anyone who hasn't spoken can absolutely speak.
My last comment is I would like to have the motion tabled, or the agenda tabled for further discussion with me and the Hamilton Street Merchants Association, if possible. If not, we'll discuss it further at the next open meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you much. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Okay, my name is Jagdish Patel. I own 921 Hamilton Street, Somerset, from Jagdish Realty. The reason why I came over here because of something like a few years back, we discussed about that. We hired another developer for the Hamilton Street. We decided that we have to look 6 months how we bring the more money from the outside. But I don't see anything they're bringing outside, like a grant or whatever it is. My English is not that great. Sorry for that. Sure. But I don't see anything developing. I'm paying maybe 6, 7, 8 years. And my share for the Hamilton Street, roughly around $1,400 per year. Now, think about that. What I got from $1,400 every year. Before I had like a $1,600 to $1,700. But, and second things, that our collection is $71,000 or something around. I don't have exact figure. And we hired the guy, we paying $41,000. Just roughly I'm telling you. Now, what kind of sense you're doing that's to manage the $71,000 and pay 41,000 for that things. What kind of sense it is? I'm a business person. I know this is not way to work. And what, ask any single, go sometime or send some people, whole Hamilton Street district, and check it out. How much they develop the business? Zero. I'm paying since 8 years. What I got benefit? Zero. Because you guys want to develop the street, but there is no room for the develop the street or whatever it is. You're supposed to bring the Rutgers or anyone people over here, that's why we can develop the business. Now they're talking since 3 times, we're gonna bring the bus services. What the hell? What is the big services? What the big deal? They're gonna bring this, they're gonna give like a, okay, bus stand, this, that. What is that? It's not gonna develop my business. I'm losing money right now. On the contrary, it is hard to survive with this money. Right now, whatever the business running, go whole Hamilton Street. 90% people want to sell their business because they're not making money. And our township want more and more, more and more. What is that? Before we paying like, just to give you example, like a Board of Health, $150 or $100. Now we paying $250. Fire department, we paying around $600 or something like that. What kind of, how people will survive? You have to think about to make the decision that, okay, we want to develop the street. Yes, we want to develop the street. But we have to look. I'm a business person. We have to look. Suppose if I'm spending that much money and what I'm getting. I don't get nothing. Even ask anyone. They will not get anything. I'm done.
Okay.
That's why now I want to know when you're going to stop that all what you guys are doing. I want to know because I don't want to pay my grandkids also paying same money whatever we're doing. And return is zero.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Appreciate the input.
Okay.
Mr. Patel, thank you. Mr. Rubin.
It's David Rubin, business owner on Hamilton Street, and also a member of the Merchants Association on Hamilton Street. We formed this corporation to hopefully help the businesses on Hamilton Street, unlike what has been happening with the previous SID that was set out to actually do. We've hired an attorney, one of the top attorneys with the knowledge of how SIDs are supposed to work, Robert Goldsmith and all his firm. They have reviewed our documents, they have reviewed the previous documents, and they have reviewed the proposal of this resolution that was set forth on Friday to be discussed tonight. I would also ask that this be benched for the next date, giving us time to work out some of the problems that they see with this resolution. I will say the majority of the resolution is positive. I think a lot of work and a lot of time has been put into it, but it leaves out some of the most important things, and that is the concerns of the businesses on Hamilton Street. The redevelopment of Hamilton Street is for the town to do. That's not for the business owners. The business owners are looking for some type of entity to help them manage these difficult times. And the money that has been brought in through taxpayer money that has unfortunately been used for other things and not to the benefit of the merchants on Hamilton Street, those monies need to be used for the merchants on Hamilton Street. And that's why we formed this corporation, which is an LLC, to do some type of management of the funds, whether from the township or from the merchants, to promote Hamilton Street and the businesses. I'll end with a few comments from my attorney, Robert Goldsmith, and just, he would have liked to have been here, but with such short notice, he was not able to be here, but he will be here at the next meeting. And hopefully, this can be benched, and the first meeting will happen, at the next time the council meets. But he basically states, "I see it as a disturbing effort to upserve what ought to be in the control of local businesses and property owners. Without commenting on the legality, this emasculates the local businesses and property owners and eliminates any incentive to devote time or effort to a shell of an advisory board." The way that basically it's written is that, yes, there are business owners, property owners, and 2 residential people that will be on this board. But basically, whatever they have to say is irrelevant. The rest of the officials, which involves a tremendous amount of government involved in this, will have the final say. And that's not what SID programs are designed for. And he basically comments, and he just basically ends it, that this is not a good idea for this SID or any SID in the state of New Jersey. And he will offer himself to speak at a public hearing. And, he feels that this should be, and he has turned this over to the DEC and also for the downtown business districts in the state of New Jersey to look at. And the responses that they have had already regarding this is all negative. It gives the township, unfortunately, too much power to use this funding, which is taxpayers, business owners, taxpayers' monies on Hamilton Street, to be used, and where the owners don't have actually much of any control. So with that said, I once again would ask that this be benched for tonight and brought up at the next meeting when these issues can be worked out with the legal counsel of Franklin Township as well as our counsel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, a question for Mr. Rubin.
Oh, you want to ask a question? Okay, Mr. Rubin? Councilman Vasanella? Okay. As long as it's directly for him.
I don't want to get into a big discussion on what your conversations were, and at the next meeting or two, I'm sure yourself and the other people that you mentioned would want to comment, will come and comment. But whatever commentary you got, was it specific to the negative comments about, at any point, the township government, by default, technically being the board, or the votes that control what the board recommends, the advisory board recommends? Was it seen as that's just terrible and should be off the table, or that something like that in an interim process has ever been or could ever be effective?
The proposal that
In other words, are you talking about long-term? Because I can't speak for everyone else, but I don't think this is necessarily a structure that's, if passed, would be carved in stone indefinitely or long-term.
Well, and I think that's what needs to be discussed a little further with business owners on Hamilton Street. By this coming out on a Friday for a Tuesday meeting, and of which most of the business owners in town have no idea of what's happening here tonight. And I understand it does go to public discussion on the next meeting, but again, as we get closer to having 2 votes, which then becomes where the resolution is passed, I believe that the people who are paying this tax need to be properly notified and hear and not create, which will happen the next meeting, of where there'll be a extremely loud outcry of where you have 99% of the people want this SID removed. They don't want to pay any more tax. They have seen several years of taxing and no benefit to them. And I think that what you're proposing, is a very good proposal. I mean, I've read it at least a dozen times, and there's just some of the items in it that sort of leave the business owners where it really doesn't matter what they think. And, with the township's help, I like that the township manager's involved, the township attorney's involved, more councilmen. Yes, that will keep everything transparent, which is something that has not been done over all these years. And I'm for most of this, as well as the attorney. who has reviewed this. But with that said, to pass it the way it is now would be detrimental to the business owners of Franklin Township.
The manager will speak to the notification process. I think you made some very good comments, and maybe the manager can maybe address the rest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, we can, as I said in the beginning, everyone can come up once per meeting. It's our policy, but anyone else who hasn't spoken, wish to speak? I can't. Anyone? See.
Upon seeing no other members here for public session, I make a motion to close the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. I'm sorry, if I break the precedent, then I'm kind of obligated to do that all the time. And just so everyone knows to what we're referring, and Mr. Gianna said specifically, ordinance 4053-14. It's 14D on our agenda. Certainly anyone can make comment during council comments, and we'll see when that comes up shortly. So thank you very much for the comments. Well, pertinent. We now go to council comments, item number 9. So I guess we'll start with Councilwoman Rosalind Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just make a few announcements with regard to one of my favorite subjects. As you know, the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council. We have a couple of things coming up. We have a date of May 18th for what we hope to be the beginning of a tradition, the Franklin Music Festival. We tried the same festival last year. Unfortunately, it was 95 degrees, and not a lot of people were in the park. It was held at Colonial Park. This time, we're going to do it in May, and hopefully, we'll have much better luck, and we'll have an enormous amount of people coming out. So I'm asking now for anyone who is interested in participating as a volunteer or performers who would be interested in performing at this event to please reach out to us. Our email address is franklincac@gmail.com. You can find our Facebook page or our website, which is franklincac.org, and let us know of your interest. This is hopefully will be a very large and a very successful event. We can use all the help and all the performers that we can get interested in it. We're also going to have a wonderful program from our Visual Arts Committee. They are working with the school system, and they're participating in the Career Day for the 7th and 8th graders and trying to help these young folks understand how they can pursue a passion they may have in art as well as make a living while they're doing it. So again, if there are any artists out there, jewelers, anyone who works with wood, anything where potentially these youngsters can learn about being artists and actually being able to make a living, please email us and let us know if you'd like to participate in that program. Again, we're doing a poetry reading. That's not until March. I won't talk very much about it, but we have two very good poets. Please follow us on our Facebook page or our website, which lists all of our events, and reserve your space for that program. More things going on and lots of things. We also advertise other events by other groups, Week of the People, other groups that are having events. So if you want to know what's going on in the arts in Franklin, check us out. I just have one other item I would like to alert people about because I'm finding it's an issue in my own community. For those people who have alarms, personal alarms in their homes, be aware that you need to register your alarm. There's a $25 fee for doing that, and the form for registering it is on our new website under the police department, I believe. Yes. If you do not register it at this point, and there is an alarm that has been responded to by the police, the next step is a court appearance. So it's a heck of a lot cheaper to register your alarm and avoid that hassle. So I urge you, please do that if you are not registered at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman James Vasanella.
Thank you. As you're driving around with all the different weather we're having, and the snow and the ice and the warm and the cold, you might notice there's been and probably will be even more potholes than usual. Be careful, obviously, for the sake of your car and other vehicles on the road and damaging your car. We do have the portal, the way on the new website is all set up. People can still report potholes. Understandably, if there's snow on the ground, they won't be attended to immediately, and then there'll probably be a little bit of a backlog. But my understanding is they will be put into the queue and dealt with and patched up, because whether it's a street that's in perfect shape but has a bad pothole, or a street that we may be repaving later in the summer, either way, we have some very good new high-tech equipment, and we will get out there and do it. So please report it. And if you don't have access to a website, where would they call a manager if
Call the
they
main
wanted
number
to
to
do
the
it?
township and speak with someone in Public Works.
So just report it to Public Works. If you're out on the road and you don't have internet, you want to report one, speak to Public Works. You can call the main number and it will be transferred. Warming centers, I don't know if we've officially have opened them in the past. I know warming centers,
We were prepared to open the warming center with the power outage last week. Luckily, the power came back on. Obviously, we had temperatures dipping down into the single digits at one point last week, including the day when we had the power outage. However, public service came through, got the transformer reset. We have been prepared to open them if we have a need for them, and we have not had a need up to this point.
Okay. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about the specific ordinance, so just a couple quick comments. The gentleman left the room that we're speaking about Hamilton. I know I've worked off and on with Mr. Giannato, various aspects relevant to Hamilton and his commitment to trying to make that area town better, and I've always found them very diplomatic to deal with. So Mr. Rubin mentioned a couple of items which I think are worth taking a look at. There's one or two items to maybe mildly tweak this tonight. It will obviously be up to council whether or not to introduce it. Either way, it's my understanding that there would be at least one, most likely two more meetings where this could be dealt with in detail with a public hearing. So that's it, Mayor. I'll talk more about my feelings on the ordinance when we get to that part of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Rajiv Prasad.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Hamilton Street Sid, I can empathize with the merchants who have not seen any return on their tax dollars, and I hope before we pass this that we will have an active discussion with them to resolve some of their concerns, and hopefully at the second reading we will have a public session and have a chance to discuss it and amend it if we have to slightly to meet their concerns. We did get a request for support for Michelle's Law, which requires DUI deaths that are caused, that the drivers be tested for blood tests for alcohol and intoxication. And that, I think, is worthwhile, and I think we should pass a resolution at the next meeting and let our state lawmakers know that we support Dr. Manal Souse's request. And speaking of potholes, some of the main arteries at least need to be addressed. I was just driving in, even Foxwood and a few other main arteries are starting to fall apart, and so we need to look at them and see what we can do to either patch them or, so I'm sure you'll have that under control. And my congratulations to the manager for handling that power outage beautifully.
Thank you. I'd like to take credit for it, but I think that the gentleman from Public Service probably had a little bit more to do than I did, but I tried.
Well, it's just so that when your wife calls you up from work and says, I got a notification from Franklin Township, and I was told to go to the library for a warming center.
That we did do that, yeah.
And she wanted to know why I wasn't in the library. So,
miraculously, even though the
it
entire
lasted
northern
2
part of
hours.
the town was without power, and I don't quite know why this was the case, but the municipal complex kept our power. So the senior center and the library still had power along with the municipal building and the police station. So we were prepared if we needed to be.
Wow. Yeah, perhaps we should think of some kind of a uninterrupted power source generator backup just in case for a warming center or, any kind of shelter that we might require that. And that may be something we should explore.
We're going to be putting a generator in at the senior center for that purpose.
Great,
That was
great.
post actually Hurricane Irene.
Okay.
That was recommended.
Great, okay. Thank you. With that, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Just want to reiterate that I continue to be proud of our chief and how he continues to build and grow our department. It's very impressive what I saw today. And I'm always very grateful and always feel very safe and happy to be a member of this community. And I just want to take my hats off to our police department. They do a great job. I also want to just comment on the Hamilton Street, this new ordinance we're looking into. I think there are two sides to every story, and clearly you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. That's a definition of insanity, I'm told. So there are some things that we need to do to make some changes. I do have a concern that we're going about this the right way and that we have solicited all the input that we need to have from all the people that are involved. So I want to make sure that we hear from our attorney tonight. I'd like to have him comment on some of the remarks that were made, get some input from him before this is over with. And that's basically my comment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
On the subject of recycling, which you heard a lot from Mr. McCall of the county program, one thing the county does not pick up is what we refer to as soft plastic, things like grocery bags, bubble wrap, newspaper wrappers, the plastic that comes around, large cases of bottled water, things like that. You will now see out in the lobby a drum bin to collect this kind of plastic. There's a firm in Piscataway called All American Poly who picks up this material and recycles it, I think largely into more bags. We're going to have was something that came out of the Environmental Commission, particularly Paul Walitsky, who was familiar because they already had such a pickup at his house of worship in Hillsborough. We're going to have bins like this. One here, I think it'll be out in the portion of the municipal building where the mailboxes are. One in the library, one in the senior center, one at Public Works, and one at the library branch down at South Middlebush and Route 27 to collect this kind of plastic, and the township will then collect it from the individual bins, take it to a single location, and the guy from All American Poly will pick it up from there. And we'll see with experience how often it needs to be picked up. So this is an addition to the recycling that the county carries out. Each one of these bins will has a poster on it which describes what is to be put in it. And I just beg of people not to put in garbage or hard plastic. This is strictly for the soft plastic. You've probably been taking the grocery bags back to your supermarket. You can put them in this, but there are a lot more things that you can put in it. In fact, I was here on Friday, and Teddy DeVries, widow of Councilman Dave DeVries, came in with a bag of her soft plastic that she was all ready to recycle. And there was a township employee here who said, "Yeah, I'll take it." We'll put it in the bin, even though the bins weren't then deployed, but they will be deployed tomorrow. So there was an article about this in the December Township newsletter. We expected they'd be deployed soon after that, but it took a while to get the bins from the manufacturer. Another thing is on February 8th, Saturday at 10 a.m. will be a walk along the DNR Canal between Landing Lane Bridge and Southbound Brook. If people are led by Bob Barth of DNR Canal Watch, who knows pretty much everything there is to know about the canal. If you want to meet at the parking lot by the lock in Southbound Brook, and then there'll be a carpool to Landing Lane and walk back from there to Southbound Brook. And this is the beginning of walking the entire length of the canal on various days through the year. Takes really a whole year to get through the entire length, but I thought I would publicize this to get more participation by township residents who may not know about it. And DNR Canal Watch is an organization that basically raises funds to supplement needs of the Canal State Park, and they run their principal fundraiser is a 5K run at Washington Crossing State Park on March 29th this year, the Saturday closest to the 1st of April. So you'll see more about that. And perhaps our press can take note of these things. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bill Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of subjects. First is the Franklin Inn. The Franklin Inn is a structure on Amwell Road if you are leaving the town towards Hillsborough that is rumored to be one of the 3 remaining structures that were Cornwallis's headquarters during the Revolutionary War. So it is an especially important structure. One of the problems is that structure is on land or proximate to land that has been contaminated. So saving that structure, which gets flooded during Floyd and some of Irene and our other flood, has been a difficult task because no one wants to take ownership of a property that's contaminated. We now have learned that the owner of the property has hired a new firm, LSRP, for those who are familiar with these things, to oversee that, and that LSRP has the feeling that this land may be contamination-free immediately around the structure, which in conversations with the DEP, they believe that that land could be subdivided away, and that would open up the opportunity for an organization to buy the property and thus begin to save this structure. In addition, as it turns out, a locally started insurance company, Franklin Mutual Insurance, turns out at one point in their history, that building was their headquarters. And we're beginning to contact them to see if they would be willing to provide some funds, and initial contacts seem promising. Next door to that, or just down the street to that, is another site on which contamination is a concern, and that's the Lori Rubber site. The Lori Rubber factory used to be on that site, and from their time there, it appears that there's been a great deal of contamination, some of which has leaked into the canal settlement. I won't go through the long history of it, but someone didn't pay their taxes, eventually someone bought that, and a developer now bought that property, and that developer is now responsible for the cleanup of that property. The state has done some testing and has identified the contamination, and we are moving ahead with that and trying to find out exactly what needs to be done. But there has been some progress, and recently the manager and I did have a telephone conference with the DEP and learned more about what can be done there. In addition to that, the manager and I once wrote a letter to Lori, there's an organization called the Blanche and Irving Lori Foundation. They're a charitable organization. If you listen to NPR, you'll hear their name mentioned every once in a while, whose initial funding came from the Lori Rubber site. And we sent a letter to them trying to persuade them to join the cause in this, because their existence is essentially a result of that contamination, and we thought they might wish to lend some money, essentially, to cleaning that up. They didn't seem to be interested, so I've started a letter-writing campaign from members of people who live in East Millstone are going to begin to write letters, so maybe if they get several letters, they would be interested now in contributing to that. So maybe some progress there. As a result of that contamination, and as a result of some other issues with the canal dredging, more of the other issues, the canal dredging, which was supposed to be this spring, is now delayed till the spring of 2015. As a result of the contamination there, the canal dredging, which was supposed to start down on Route 518 and go all the way to Amwell Road, will stop a few hundred yards short of Amwell Road, because they're going to stop right before the Lori Rubber factory site, because they don't want to get into that contamination. For the canal dredging, it probably doesn't mean that much, but it will affect the cleanup of that site. I had mentioned last year two bills before the Assembly and the Senate that I conceived of and was able to get legislatures to carry forward. In discussions today, actually, with Assemblyman Shivakula, the bill that would minimize police paperwork and allow them to computerize some of their documents. Last year it was S-3004, has been reintroduced, along with a bill to allow, essentially, reduce the restrictions on historic buildings now that are bought with open space money. We're limited in what we can do, and as a result of it, because open space money is limited, some of these beautiful homes are being left to rot. If we can allow commercial money to come in or sell them with certain restrictions, then perhaps we can save these homes and their structures and let the public enjoy them. to a greater extent than obviously if they fell down. On to other subjects, something I would like, and I don't have the power to myself instruct the manager, but these are my wishes. Signs are popping up, commercial signs are popping up on roadsides. That we had a clause in our sign ordinance about political signs, and during the political season, they were everywhere, some of them illegal, but they all went away very quickly. Within a week or two after the election, they were gone. These commercial signs seem to last. You have some signs for sales of new homes with arrows pointing in any direction, not leading people to the house sale areas. And we have an ordinance, and the ordinance actually has a fine for these signs. So my suggestion is, rather than having our people go around and collect these signs, which is extremely time-consuming, is when they go around, they see a sign. None of these signs are anonymous. They're advertising something. And I think we should contact the people and say, take down your signs, or in another week or 2 weeks, you will be fined. So I am asking, I do not have the power to direct the manager, but I am asking the manager if he can look into that. And then the last thing, on a bit happier note, last year we had an event called Bike Without Fear, where we closed a portion of Canal Road so people could bike and walk down it on one Sunday. That is going to be expanded to 2 Sundays, and you'll be hearing more about that in the future. So, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Carl Wright.
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple items, updates, if you will, from our committees. The Redevelopment Agency was reorganized on Monday with Mr. Giannato, who's in our audience, as the chairman, and Councilwoman Francois as the vice chairperson. Reports were given by our 2 main developers, RPM and Leewood, by email, but next month we hope to have them in to clarify their objectives and goals as we move forward. Just so everyone who doesn't know, the redevelopment area is bounded by Route 27, Churchill Avenue, Hamilton, and Franklin Boulevard. So in that little area, minus little blocks here and there, are part of the redevelopment area. The Recreation Advisory Committee did not have a quorum this past month, but Ms. Alice Osipowicz was here this evening. She's the director of our recreation department, and she brought forth the Somerville's Recreation Area Plan, and I want to thank my fellow council members for agreeing to that plan. The Land Use Committee will meet tomorrow, therefore we will not have a progress report until next month. And also next month I will have an update on the Franklin Township Housing Authority. And once again, it's time for our Fireworks Committee to begin its work and plan for an outstanding evening here in Franklin Township. Bill Grippo, once again, will be the chair of that committee, along with Councilwoman Rosalind Sherman, Joyce Miller, the township manager, Carl Wright. Oh, wait a minute, that's me. Again, I'll be the vice chairman. And if anyone was interested, our first meeting will be held this week, January the 30th, at 11:30 a.m. in the large conference room, where we will begin to formalize the plans for this year's fireworks. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask our manager, nothing there yet. Our Deputy Mayor Brian Regan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just going to keep my comments short relative to the ordinance regarding the Hamilton Street SID ordinance that is up for a vote to be introduced later this evening. I was a member of that subcommittee that was formed in early November. All the members of the SID, and some I guess maybe weren't, were here when that structure was announced, and we said that we would have a proposal for restructuring out by February. Happy to announce, obviously, that that we met that timeframe. That did include, obviously, very challenging times of the holidays in November and December. The amount of times that the subcommittee met were numerous and involved staff meeting over, again, what is typically holiday time. And for those who work with the government generally know that some stuff really slows down between Thanksgiving and the New Year's. But this subcommittee, and the members of the staff who worked on it made it their focus to meet the schedule that we set, and we met it. Overall, we believe that this is very good ordinance that will take input from all members of that area. It is clear the previous model did not work. It's the harsh reality. It didn't work. And we believe that this new ordinance will be a better implementation for the SID, as all of us on the subcommittee and all members in the Hamilton Street area obviously want something that will work for that area and for that community. So I'm very hopeful that tonight that ordinance will get voted in, and then during the time there will be public comments, and clearly we are interested in the public comment, and that will come up at the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. And now for my comment, just based on what was said, I participated on some before on the 4th of July committee, so perhaps I'll ask about that later on if I can.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor?
If I can come crash your meeting. I've done that a little bit before on the 4th of July.
You're always welcome to come, Mr. Mayor. Always.
Thank you so much. And on Hamilton Street, yes, things brought to light. I'm sure we're going to be discussing it. I think we're all coming from the same area, that we want what's best for Hamilton Street. I don't think there's hidden motives unless I'm naive, but I think I'm optimistic we can all come to a meeting of the minds. And that's all I have on that. And so now we'll go back to our agenda. And 10C is 4th of July celebration. And Councilman Wright spoke about that a little. Do you have anything to add?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor?
Oh, on the agenda, 10C, 2014 4th of July Celebration Committee.
No, Mr. Mayor, we have nothing else to add. Just that, once again, we plan on having an outstanding 4th of July for all the residents here in Franklin Township, and for those that want to come visit.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Good. And now we have item 10D, 2014 salary request, Board of Fire Commissioners, Fire District Number 3. Basically, we have 4 fire districts in town that encompass our fire protection. They're not under the municipality umbrella. They're separate governments in essence. But the town council has to approve the salaries of the fire commissioners. I think most of them have 5 commissioners. And so the fire districts 1, 2, and 4 did not request a raise this year. And I believe it's the Saturday of President's Day weekend is usually election for fire commissioners and their budget. So 1, 2, and 4 did not. Fire District 3 had a slight increase request, and per the council's request, our clerk, Ms. McCarthy, wrote them a letter saying, please send someone in to discuss the request and ask about it. And they wrote her back, which is in our packets, basically saying due to conflict, they cannot make it, so just go forward with the fire commissioner salaries, which is $7,284 of the prior year, meaning no increase. Anything to add, Mrs. McCarthy?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, so I guess since we didn't vote on that, this might be a good time to approve that, their salaries? Or do we have to wait for a resolution to come through?
I just motion to approve.
Yes.
Yeah, you can certainly do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, so motion to approve
Okay.
their salary as is without an increase.
Okay.
Second.
Moved in second. Is there any discussion further on that? Okay.
I would do it by roll call.
Okay. So, right, okay. So thank you. Getting it's always parliamentary tips from our attorney. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on the motion to have Fire District 3, Commissioner salaries unchanged from the prior year.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you very much. And again, that was at the request in their letter, they said just go ahead, unchanged. That's what we were doing. So now we come to item number 11, approval of the minutes. So we have minutes of executive session, minutes of December 10th, 2013, Township Council work session regular meeting, minutes of January 1st, 2014, that's our reorganization day, Township Council work session regular meeting, minutes of January 7th, 2014, and the executive session minutes of January 7th, 2014. Is there a motion for these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on approval of the minutes.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you. Next, we have our warrants. Warrants are the bills that we pay. Warrants in the amount of $19,412,598.39 on January 28th, 2014 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we come to our ordinance votes. For an ordinance to go into law, it's generally voted on twice. Once is an introduction, and then usually the next meeting, there's a second vote. If it passes the second time, then it goes into law. Now, at that second vote or second hearing, we open up to the public for anyone to speak on that particular ordinance. So we will have 2 second readings and ordinance hearings, and after those, we'll come to 4 ordinance introductions. So the first of these, of second readings, public hearings, and adoption of ordinances on second reading is 13A on the agenda, which is ordinance 4048-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing acceptance of drainage easement, RUKH, R-U-K-H, Easton Avenue Properties, LLC, docket number ZBA 09-00004. This is a drainage easement onto Easton Avenue, basically from where the Imperia is, because the construction they may be doing behind there. So the foregoing ordinance, the township attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one coming forward to speak, make a motion to close the public session.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Public discussion is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on item 13A, ordinance 4048-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Motion is carried. The second and final of our ordinance, second readings and public hearings relates to the first one, is ordinance number 4049-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing acceptance of drainage easement, Rook Cedar Grove Lane Properties LLC, docket number ZBA 09-00004. This related, that same property where the Imperia is, this is the easement coming onto Cedar Grove Lane. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Is there a motion for a public hearing on this particular ordinance?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. This meeting is open for public discussion on this particular ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, upon seeing no one come forward for the public session, I make a motion to close the public session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please pull the counts on 13B, ordinance 4049-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have 4 ordinance introductions. The first is 14A, ordinance 4050-14, an ordinance authorizing the Township of Franklin to amend a conservation easement as in real property known as 9 Matawang Drive and identified on the township's tax maps as Block 37.03, Lot 3, and authorizing the acceptance of an amended conservation easement over the same property. Now, this is almost technical. I think we saw this last meeting where someone's got a driveway and 250 square feet off of the driveway is being set off as a conservation easement. Is that right? Correct. Okay, thank you. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, February 11th, 2014, 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Move and second. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 14A, ordinance 4050-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Next is item 14B, ordinance 4051-14, and an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, Somerset County, New Jersey, more particularly Chapter 236 Municipal Services, Schedule A, Modify Street Lighting, Sterling Point. This is to accept the street lights for the town from Sterling Point Development. I think this is the final street lights which are coming to us. No, other parts, streets are not, but this is just the street lights. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, February 11th, 2014, 7 o'clock p.m. at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Move and second. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 14B, ordinance 4051-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Okay, now we have ordinance 14C, ordinance 4052-14, an ordinance of the Township of Franklin in Somerset County, repealing code chapter 384 water, article 9, water emergencies in its entirety, replacing with the new article 9, water conservation. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, February 11th, 2014, at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Councilman Chase.
Mr. Mayor, I've learned that this has not been submitted to our Township Council for review, and therefore I move that it be tabled until he's had a chance to review it, which I hope will be by our next meeting. This is a matter that I have been working on for a full 4 years. But I guess we'll have to wait another 2 weeks at least to have it properly reviewed.
Okay, so Councilman Chase, I'll take that as a motion to remove it from the agenda.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor of removing it from the agenda, and we may see it at some point soon, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. Next is 14D, the last of our
Covered already.
ordinance introductions. Ordinance 4053-14. This is what was being alluded to earlier by other members, by members of the public, and some council members, just for information. It's an ordinance amending the municipal code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly Code Chapter 23, Hamilton Street Business Community Special Improvement District. Before we go on, I'll ask our Township Manager, Mr. Vornlocker, to give us an overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The gist of this ordinance amendment stems from a request to me made by several people several months ago, back in late October, to look into some issues regarding the Hamilton Street Business and Community Corporation and some discrepancies and disputes regarding appointments to their Board of Trustees. As I began to look into that, it immediately became apparent after consultation with our township attorney that there were serious issues regarding the appointment of those individuals to the Board of Trustees. And in fact, what became apparent after some investigation was that there was in fact no properly seated members of the Board of Trustees other than the township council members who were appointed to that Board of Trustees by council. Given the fact that there were no proper members of the Board of Trustees, I brought this to council, and a decision was made to form an ad hoc committee to determine how council would proceed with the SID and management of the SID. The ad hoc committee, as Deputy Mayor Regan mentioned earlier, first met at the beginning of December and met on several occasions after that. Some of those meetings were rather lengthy. There was a great deal of discussion about this particular subject. Some of the documents that Mr. Gianotto alluded to earlier, actually I shouldn't even say some, all of the documents that Mr. Gianotto alluded to earlier were provided to this ad hoc committee, and they were discussed at length, and therefore I would assume that all the elected members of the committee went through all of those documents. I know for a fact, based on my own involvement with this, that the 3 staff members, myself included, also reviewed all of those documents. All those documents were also provided to our township attorney for his review as well. And certainly not to dispute anything that's been said here tonight, but I think that, based on my involvement in this and my observations and the amount of information that was gone over by this ad hoc committee, I think that it was thoroughly vetted, and I think that the ordinance, which was the ordinance amendment, which was prepared by Mr. Dominack, who's present here tonight, to answer any questions council might have, was reviewed by our township attorney, and so that's where we're at now. The recommendations of the ad hoc committee have been incorporated into this ordinance amendment, and what discussion takes place will dictate to me and my staff members where we go from here.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Regan?
I would just also wanted to ask our attorney to give his opinion on, it seems like the structure that we've put in place is being questioned or has been questioned as to whether it's valid or even legal. So I'd like his input on the formation of the ordinance as introduced, or as about to be introduced.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Iannone, please, thank you.
I think that there are two issues and that we should understand whenever we talk about the legal structure of this. The first is that the misconception that somehow the District Management Corporation was in charge of the financing of the SID is fundamentally not correct, because as we know, the amount of money that the SID has to spend every year in their budget and how they spend it is something that's reviewed by council and approved by council. So what we're really talking about here is the manner in which we're going to manage the use of public funds. Because if you go to DCA's website, and I think that it talks about the experience of some 60 to 90 other SIDs that are in effect in the state, the first thing that is clear is that if a group of businessmen want to form the Hamilton Street Merchants Association and use their own money and raise funds privately to do improvements or to promote a downtown area, they have every right to do that. That's a perfectly proper private function. It is when you begin to discuss the use of taxpayer money and the manner in which that is spent is where the council's role comes in terms of raising, permitting the money to be raised, in this case, as an assessment against properties and businesses. Actually, it's properties in the business zone, and how that money is ultimately spent on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, based upon the experience that the township has had with regards to the manner in which the District Management Corporation operated over the course of the last few years, i.e. technically, they ceased to, I shouldn't say they ceased to exist. I'm not sure if they ever properly existed, because there are no records, and they have no records of ever having held an election for a Board of Trustees after the initial formation. There are a myriad of issues that come with the turning over of public funds to an entity that doesn't, in fact, legally exist and follow the guidelines that are required by law. While I certainly have a great deal of respect for Bob Goldsmith, who is the attorney who was mentioned, and he has experience representing SIDS, I don't think that he shares my experience in representing public entities, and certainly he and I would probably go at it with a different set of eyes. And that is, I think that there is an obligation when you're spending public funds to make sure that they're spent in accordance with certain guidelines. And I think that we have to get back to that kind of structure. The policy goals is a council decision. It's not really a legal decision. What direction it goes and what programs are funded is really just a council decision. I can't comment. I can't comment on whether or not they're good ideas or a bad idea. I would suggest that, once again, I know that some comments were read Mr. Goldsmith's comments, and I'm assuming that they, get caught kind of in the fog of advocacy, to say, the decisions of council will emasculate the business community. That certainly is not a legal determination. That's a personal opinion, I guess. Assuming everybody's got the best interests of the township in mind, council is elected to make those decisions. I trust their judgment. They're elected to make those decisions. So I don't really know. I think that's not really a legal issue. That's where's your point of view? But the fact of the matter is that council could just defund this if they wanted to. They could reduce the budget to $10,000. They could reduce it to $500, and then be left with, then go out and undertake all of these individual operations by themselves. So, from a legal point of view, the Vince Dominic, who has a background in economic development and whose judgment I trust, understands the model that we're talking about here. I don't think that it is it's a big stretch here from a legal point of view. I don't think that there's really that question. Reasonable minds can differ as to which who should control this funding, but I would suggest that, 10 years and something around $1 million has gone in this direction already. So now council's going to come back, and maybe council, there's nothing permanent about this. Council could decide to form a district management corporation. And the other thing that in my experience with these types of improvement districts, it's generally the district management corporation, even when it's a not-for-profit corporation, is one that's formed by the governing body. I've never seen a circumstance where private not-for-profits kind of make proposals to, I want to be the district management corporation. I mean, really what they're asking is, I want to be the recipient of X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars of public funds. That's really what, it's almost like grant, and I don't think that that's what this process was supposed to be. This is, even DCA's website says that the Attorney General's office has struggled with whether or not these are public or private enterprises. The Attorney General's office struggles with a lot. Sometimes they struggle all the time. I don't think if the League of Municipalities, who receives dues from each of the municipalities in the states, has been deemed by the Supreme Court to be a public entity for the purpose of Oprah, for instance. I can't imagine in anybody's wildest dreams that a special improvement district completely and wholly funded by municipal taxpayers is not a public entity. So I'm pretty comfortable with that. So, and I don't think that this is a circumstance where you're looking to fund a private corporation. I think it's a public. So I think I'm very comfortable. I think it gives, I'm not paid to make judgments on the economics of doing it, but it seems to make sense to have staff take control of this, straighten out whatever the problems are, get this on the right direction, and then this advisory committee maybe becomes something, maybe it becomes the district management corporation, and maybe that's what council decides to do. But certainly it gets it back on the right path, and I think it's consistent with at least my experience in the manner in which special improvement districts operate in the various towns that I represent.
Okay. Anything else before we go? Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes. I have no argument with everything that's been said, and I totally agree. I know how it was handled before. I was on the committee for a while. I just want to make sure that the business owners have the opportunity to make their points known. I truly dislike or find it distasteful if people feel they're being so disenfranchised, that they're being sort of disrespected in the process, and I just want to be sensitive to the fact that if they have a point of view, they should have the right to make that known, and that's my only comment.
Okay, good point.
Ditto to that.
Okay. And the basic structure, in the final analysis, the council votes the money, as we always have, and in this case, we actually vote the expenditures too. It's going to consist of what we call 11 voting members who will make the recommendation to the council. And that's all, 10 of those 11 are business owners or residents in the area, and one reserved for someone outside. Let's say there's an expert. That's 11. And then 9, basically from the government here, council staff, and those 9 are non-voting members. So all the voting members who make the recommendations are from the business district. That's the basic structure. So we're now at the, I don't know if I did this part. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the township, I did that part? Okay. Is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing, and final adoption on Tuesday, February 11th, 2014, at 7:00 p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. First, is there a motion to introduce? Then we'll get to any other discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Councilman Chase?
I was just going to suggest that we move the date of adoption back to the second meeting in February, and that will allow us to hear from all the people that wanted to revise and extend their remarks. I feel I didn't have time to get ready for this meeting, and council can determine then whether to revise the ordinance in the light of those remarks or simply go ahead with it as introduced, but it would not rush things quite as much.
Okay, so,
I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but.
Mayor?
discussion on that, Councilman Vasanella?
I just had a couple of quick comments, but let me make sure I'm understanding Councilman Chase is suggesting his desire to introduce it tonight, but to have the final reading at the second
At February
meeting in
25th,
February.
instead of February 11th.
Technically, it could be squeezed in the first meeting. We would, the suggestion is to give till the second meeting. If I'm understanding it correctly, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make a few quick comments. Mayor, you did mention.
I'm gonna interject.
Sure,
real quick.
please.
I'm gonna take that, and we'll vote on that change. A move in a second to change it to February 25th from February 11th. But go ahead.
Could you say that again, real slow?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna take that as a motion and a second to have the final vote on February 25th instead of February 11th.
Why?
Because Councilman Chase. made that
Well,
request.
I was suggesting that,
Or unless it's not a motion, if you just want to discuss it, then let me not misinterpret.
well, I brought it up for discussion, and we can
Okay.
make that as a motion, and my feeling was just the people we heard from tonight felt that, that this was being perhaps rushed, that they wanted to have more opportunity to address the ordinance as written, and in particular to bring an attorney to comment on the ordinance as written. And I thought we might give them a little more chance to make this argument, and council can determine then whether to revise the ordinance and reintroduce it, or go ahead with it as initially presented, but it would just make things not quite so rushed. How do you feel about that, Carl? Because I
Okay,
know that
since,
this is-
and I'm just going to jump in. Okay, since I think I probably jumped the gun and considered it a motion, I'm going to pull that back. It's a discussion, and part of me for misinterpreting. So now we're just discussing. So Councilman Wright, did you want to respond, or?
I do.
And, do you want to go before?
Yeah, if I...
Mr. Raynon can go, then...
If I, just on the issue of delaying it, understand where we are legally is that you have a ordinance that designates a not-for-profit entity to be the District Management Corporation that has ceased to function legally because it has no board of trustees. You have a tax that is on the books because you approved the budget for 2013, so you collected money, and now you're running up against the deadline to do that for 2014. Tax bills go out in March. So I am concerned that that it's been delayed this long. I would be more concerned if we start to make this process go out, because you're basically going to lose 2014 and decide whether or not you're going to do it in 2015, because you're going to lose the ability to collect that money this year. So while I have a great deal of respect for the people who do want to comment on this, Mr. Giannato's attorney, weighed in on this whole thing in, I think, the second week in December. So his opinion about what should happen and what next was given to the committee, and the committee had the ability to understand that. He certainly, none of this is a surprise, because he's seen that the committee was in effect. He made comments on what they were doing. So I'm just, my concern legally is that if you delay this, if February, now we're talking about an ordinance that won't be approved, that won't be effective until the middle of March, it's going to affect our ability to get it on the tax bills, which, if you're going to do it, and like I said, you're in a legal limbo right now because you have an ordinance that needs to be corrected or repealed.
If there's that sort of consideration, a real reason to move this as fast as possible in terms of our ability to tax for it, I'll withdraw my suggestion.
Okay, I was going to Councilman Wright. Did you want to speak at this point? And then to Deputy Mayor Regan?
No, I'm fine with
Oh,
the
okay.
withdrawal. I'm ready to vote
Okay.
on it.
Councilman Wright, did you have?
Let's
Yeah.
vote.
Okay. Anything else? Councilman Vasanella?
Yeah, that's what was said was fine. Mayor, I just want to point out a couple things, as this will probably be discussed by people involved in Hamilton, I'm sure. You mentioned it before about the voting. Only the 11 individuals, 10 of which have to come from business owners, et cetera. In other words, the real stakeholders. One is just an at-large, which could end up being another business owner, possibly. Point is, the 11 voting members of this advisory board are basically the stakeholders. Yes, technically, there is that word advisory, but as this was being discussed in our group, it was brought up, because some of us were on the side of it should not have advisory, just let them vote, because town council has to approve the budget, so ultimately we kind of have our own check and balance, because if we didn't like what they were doing, we can not vote the budget. But also it was put on the table, look, we have an open space committee, we have an environmental committee, although the environmental commission doesn't collect tax, I understand, just for the basis of functionality. It was thrown around 98, 99% of the time, anything is vetted in one of these advisory groups and then brought to council. It's approved. It can happen that council may not, but just because that word advisory is there, I wouldn't take it lightly. Again, the voting power is still in the stakeholders. Unless there's a compelling reason for me personally, and I think most council members up here, a compelling reason to disregard or be against something, perhaps there's some legality or fiduciary responsibility we feel we can't agree with something they've advised, yes, we could technically vote no. But I think most of us would be compelled to vote in favor of something that was advised, unless there was really a compelling reason not to. The other aspect I want to mention here is regardless of who believes who should have done more the last 10 years, I'm sure there's enough responsibility or lack of achievement to go around. But the point here is the town has to buy in. One thing I believe everybody knowledgeable Sid would, how Sid's function would agree, the town has to buy in. And with the format here and the structure that impressed me, and I'm willing right now and perhaps in the final vote to leave it as advisory, is it was mentioned by me and mentioned by the attorney. If this board becomes really functional and a real brain trust of moving things, moving development and revitalization forward, we can amend the ordinance. It was a simple amendment to change it to where it's not advisory. That could happen down the road. I'd like to see it happen. But for now, the only way anything's going to happen in Hamilton, I think we all agree, is the town has to buy in. And you have the manager, you have the police chief or his specific designee, you have the engineer, you have the planner, you have the township special projects. You basically have the township administration, the top people in Franklin Township, sitting on this advisory board. So there may be some people in Hamilton, whether they don't want the tax at all, or people involved in the Merchants Association who feel like this is just more the same. Well, it isn't. This is do or die. This is put up or shut up. This is the town is going to follow through and make this happen in cooperation with the stakeholders there, and perhaps the Merchants Association could be a key component of helping move things along. But it's either going to happen or not happen. So I don't love every aspect of this, but I think this is really the first real opportunity to have a structure in place that can make something happen. And we don't need to decide it tonight, but I know there was concerns from council members of, well, great, but how long are we going to let this experiment go? Well, we're not going to get into that tonight, I don't think. I don't want to anyway. But there has to be very specific and strict timelines and reviews and evaluations. And maybe that's the type of thing that we can exchange more information on and have a better understanding. So hopefully many people in the Hamilton Street, the Merchants Association, et cetera, will buy in to this model. So it's not perfect, but I think it is what's needed at this point. And if it needs to be fast-tracked, I know the stakeholders and a lot of people in Hamilton want to see something happen. So I'm open to their input, but from what it sounds like, we should move this forward. If it ends up passing at the next meeting, it can always be amended in time, but as the attorney said, we can get back to business to get this back on track. Sorry it took so long, but this has been 10 years, and I wanted to summarize my position and my hopes at this point. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council.
Thank you. Councilwoman Francois?
Yeah, I just want to make a quick comment. Since I've been hearing there is a need, we heard from our township attorney that we need to move forward, and it has been 10 years, and there is a sense of urgency here, and like I said before, I think the definition of insanity is to continue to do things the same way and expect different results. So clearly, we need to change direction here, and clearly there's a sense of urgency here, and I would like to see us make sure that we treat this like a project, manage it like a project, make sure we have deliverables and milestones, and we have quarterly check-ins, and we set some type of a timetable associated with what our goals and objectives are and try to manage to that with a sense of urgency. So I think we definitely need to move forward. Thank you.
Okay, Councilman Prasad?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to suggest that we have some kind of a sunset clause with this whole thing, that if things don't turn out the way in a certain time limit, then either we abandon this whole thing or we do something different. But, there has to be some kind of a deadline by when we have to make some kind of a decision.
Mr. Raynaud?
The good part about the SID law is it actually has a one-year sunset provision in it.
Okay.
Because you never vote a budget for more than 1 year. So if that doesn't work, next year, you don't approve it. So it actually requires you to do it. You're not locked into anything other than 2014 right now.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Councilman Kramer?
Thank you. Yeah, I anticipated Mr. Rennone saying that because I heard him say it before. I, too, would like a sunset provision, that this not go beyond 2 years. I understand that, yes, there is no to correct you, Mr. Rennone, there is no sunset provision in it. What is de facto is that every year we have to approve the budget. So the word sunset never occurs, is never in the ordinance. The reason why I want the word sunset or some similar language in there is because I was in the audience somewhere, I think in the back row, when this was first proposed, and I was concerned about it, and I predicted it wouldn't work, and we're now 10 years later, and I don't think we've had much progress for it. I see this structure, I see the vigor in it, I'm excited that Mr. Dominic is involved with it, and I think it right now has the best hope it's had, but I don't want it to go on another 10 years without something coming out of it. And I'm not saying that within 2 years I expect it to look like Somerville. I just want, maybe not a single brick has been laid or brushstroke has been applied. I just want there to be some type of promise. So I would like a deadline on this, because I've heard that this should all be going well in a year. I'm willing to say 2 years. And give it that. And the only difference between the fact that we have to approve the budget every year and this is, well, we've approved the budget every year, and it's kind of things have a momentum in government. If there's a stop to this and then we have to reset it again, then that is that momentum. And I'm not saying if things don't happen in 2 years and that's the very end of it, I just think if there's a sunset to it, then we rethink it. That might be a good time for the business owners at the time to have a greater role in it or a stronger role in it. So that's the first thing I would like, is for there to be some type of sunset. And the second thing is, I think there's too many council members on this. There's 4 council members on it. I think I can see why the 5th and 4th Ward council members should be on it. that's fine, and then we could have one at-large person on it to represent the whole town, but I think 4 is a bit heavy on council. So I would like those 2 changes applied.
And Mayor?
Councilman?
I tend to agree with Councilman Kramer, and I just want to point out here that, looking in the timeline, if you made December 31st, 2015, where this has to, whatever the technical term, be reinstated, reconstituted, or will disappear, kind of goes hand in hand, looking down the road. Everyone on this, everyone up here today, all 9 of us, barring a catastrophe of sort, will all be here. In other words, we are the ones who are saying we're going to usher this in a different capacity, different structure, and regardless of who's still left on council after 2015.
Are you speaking for all of us or just yourself?
I'm saying that everyone here today, nobody's term expires before December 31st, 2015. All I'm saying is, if we go with the model that's been mentioned and Councilman Kramer has detailed, we'll be allowed to do that. We will be up to us to decide in fall of 2015, if I'm understanding the timeline correctly, to decide whether or not to extend it to whatever you want to call it, reconstituted, or the same way, or differently, or drop it altogether. I was just saying the timeline works with a 2-year. I think that's reasonable. And as far as the council people go, I'm fine. There was discussions whether it should be 2, 3, or 4. We ended up with up to 4. A few people I know have mentioned 3 is possibly enough. I'm fine with that change. Just wanted to add that to it.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just have 3 seconds.
Yeah, go-
When I said
Councilman
at
Kramer.
large, I didn't mean to exclude the mayor. I was including that in at large. In other words, a non-ward council member.
Okay, non-ward 4 or 5, right? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Deputy Mayor Regan?
So at this point, I would like to call for the vote to introduce with the understanding that members of that were on the subcommittee will work between now and the second reading of this ordinance to come to agreement on fine-tunings that need to be done on it based upon comments made tonight regarding a sunset and the number of council members on it.
I'm going to ask our attorney, if those changes were made, would that be a
Excuse me.
substantial change and not?
Before our attorney speaks,
Okay, Councilman Wright, go ahead.
everyone else has gotten to speak, and I would just like to say something.
Yeah, you're integral to it.
I've sat here and listened to our learned friends here. Everyone's has their different opinion, and I like that. I really do. But you see, for 10 years, this thing has sat here, and I'm to blame for it. Because I went my first 2 years, and nothing happened, and I said to myself, this is crap. Nothing's going on here. I walk down Hamilton Street, and there's nothing going. Okay. We change administrations, what have you. Somebody comes on board and they actually want to do something. And I pushed the budget through. I rubbed everybody's back up and down this line to push the budget through. Now, why would I do that if I didn't believe in what we were going to do? Now, for 10 years, this shit has been going on. And some of these council members in this room were on that SID since the beginning. And they didn't speak up a damn time. Now, moving forward, if you're sitting on a board and you don't know that it's not constituted right, then you're a dummy from the start. Now, I'm just saying that for 10 years, we've had this SID, and I want to make sure that the residents of the 4th Ward, like everyone else in this town, can walk down the street and it's safe, walk down the streets and purchase things, walk down the streets and have businesses, all kind of good stuff. I mean, I'm for that. I'm in the tank 100%, without question. I'm in the tank for this. But I don't understand. Everybody's got a little lick in this and nobody's living down the street. So What's the big deal? I mean, I'm serious. You leave that neighborhood, you leave that as a downtown, because it was. Everything was over there. So now we have a new area, DeMott Lane. We're all down this way. And as you go further out, we have brand new developments, and it's real sweet, and God bless you. But you forgot Hamilton Street. You left it to its own device. And what happened? Zero. Zero. And now we sit here and speak violence and saying, well, we want to sunset this, we want to cut that, and all kind of stuff. No, it's not going to work. Now, I'm one councilman sitting down here, and y'all can vote against me, but damn it, we're going to do it right. I'm going to call everybody out, because this is ridiculous. Ridiculous. Now, I want Hamilton Street, not the way it is. I want Hamilton Street to have buildings on it where people are employed. I want Hamilton Street to have parking that it does not have right now. Do you understand? Now, I'm sorry. This motion has to be moved tonight, as our counselor said. Anybody want to make any hay or whatever, you can come to the next council meeting and say anything you want. Even the council members up here can vote against it if they want. That is your right. The people elected you to do just that. They elected me in the 4th Ward to speak for them. And speak for them I will. So for anybody out there, I want you to know I'm here. So, and as far as down at the other end, when I said some people have been on this SID since the beginning, you know, I really wasn't going to speak that way, and I apologize for raising my voice. But this is very important to me. And I don't want anyone to take this lightly, especially the guy that owns the other end of Hamilton Street, who's been on this board since day one. Now, most of Hamilton Street resides in the 4th Ward. And as far as I'm concerned, we're going to make it work. I thank our learned counsel, Mr. Raynon, for giving us insight, input. I believe Vince Dominic will do us very well, will do us proud, will give us the insight, give us some zoning things that we need to look at. I think 4 council members is just fine with me. I think we're all invested here. I'm invested here. The residents are invested here. So, ladies and gentlemen, pass the damn thing and let's move forward.
Okay.
Mayor,
Deputy Mayor Regan?
I call for the vote.
Well, I thought the attorney was going to let us know.
Nothing else to say.
I'm not sure what else is on the,
Well, the question I wanted to add the sunset clause, and Mr. Regan is saying, okay, we'll handle that in the next 2 weeks. I don't think you can. I don't think you can come back 2 weeks from now with new language. I think you, because.
Substantial change.
Right.
well, let's just deal with the sunset clause, that issue. I don't think that if we have an ordinance and you're not going to change any of the other terms of it, that all you're going to do is change either the effective date or the termination date of it. I don't think that that is a substantial change that is one that would require a new public hearing.
Okay.
So that really is the issue. So if that is what council ultimately wants to do, that'll be the case.
And then the number of council members.
Well, the number of council members, once again, if you're going to start changing with the substance of it, then you're going to start creating substantive changes to the ordinance, and then you're going to be in a situation where you may, in fact, have to re-advertise it.
So, if I may, I propose 3. If no one seconds it, then we're done with that, and that's it. I mean, it's not that hot an issue. I just think that would be a tweak that would be better. So if anyone else, I'll make that a motion, 3 instead of 4. If no one wants to second it, then we're done with it.
Okay, so that's the motion to change number of council members to 3 from 4 and leave everything else the same. There's no second. Okay, we'll move
Okay.
on.
Good.
Okay. Did you have your heart set on a vote? We'll-
No. Well,
Okay.
no one seconded it, so I could have my heart set all I
I
want.
mean, I would second it if you really. If you
No.
want.
I mean, clearly, if no one else wants to second it, the vote won't pass, so that's fine.
Okay.
That was a tweak. That wasn't a major issue.
Okay, and then, Mr. Renone, you'll speak to the manager of the committee on if there were some kind of sunset provision, what that would look like, and then the
Correct.
committee will make a recommendation to council. But we'll keep everyone certainly abreast, so
Correct.
it's not coming to you right at the meeting.
Mayor?
Okay. Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify with the attorney,
Councilman
since it looks like,
Snella.
for the time being anyway, we're going to keep it at the council members listed here. Is it understood, I'm looking at the worksheet, I don't know if this is the ordinance, that it's up to 4? I mean,
It's 4.
No, it is,
up to, no,
No, it's 4.
it has the number 4.
so we'll specifically be appointing the 4 if
It's
this goes
actually
through.
wards 4, 5, the mayor, and at-large person.
Well,
Other
as,
could be another ward council.
once again,
Thought it said
and just for the sake of moving this forward, if council only appoints 3, then there'll only be 3 on it.
And that will be fine, that's what I'm trying to clarify, then that gives us the option, right?
Correct.
If we leave it as is, we can decide that later.
Thank
And-
you, Mr. Renaud.
So I'm just, be clear, thank you.
And other could be another ward council person, of course, right? The 4th member.
Yes.
It just says
Sure,
other.
it says the mayor and other.
Okay.
So I'm assuming that the 4th and the 5th ward council people will be on it, and then they can decide after that
They
whether they
decide
want
to
to be
never
on.
show up.
Is that in stone, Mr. Raynon, or could we change the deck?
What kind of stone would that be?
Ward
A soft
council,
stone or a hard stone?
4th and 5th ward
Fourth
council,
and
is that in
fifth
stone?
ward.
That's in stone.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
in stone.
Okay. If, no, that was all well thought out. I think,
Yeah.
again, everyone's going for the same goal, so this is good, in my opinion. And with council, manager, police, engineer, planner, the town is really buying in here, in my opinion. Okay, if no other discussion,
No, I'd like to
Deputy
call
Mayor
for the vote.
Regan, we'll go to a vote. So, nothing else? Again, good discussion on this. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 14D, ordinance 4053-14, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have our consent agenda. The consent agenda are items of a generally routine nature that can be voted on at one time. So we have consent agenda items A through AP listed on the consent agenda portion of this meeting. It's any councilperson's prerogative to pull an item off of the agenda for a separate vote. So is there a discussion or a motion for the consent agenda?
Motion for the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. If nothing else, Madam Clerk, please poll the council on the consent agenda.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, item number 16, resolutions voted on separately, of which we do not have any. Item 17, old business, 2014 boards and commission vacancies. There are nomination for any of these vacancies. Okay, seeing none. Item 18, going into executive session. Executive session is where the council meets in private. We can only meet in private for certain instances such as attorney-client privilege, personnel matters, and negotiations. I'm missing one, I think, but, okay, we're close.
There's 9, actually.
Okay, okay, never mind. But ones we do have today, it's Resolution 14-84, authorize executive session, attorney-client privilege, municipal court judge appointment, and contract negotiations, personnel, annual review of our township manager that is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for the resolution to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on the resolution for consent agenda, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Regan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, we're now going to go into executive session. We're going to meet on those items. When the subject of those executive sessions no longer needs to be kept private, the minutes of those meetings will be made public. After executive session, we will do only two things. Number one, we will vote to come out of executive session, and number two, we will vote to adjourn. So that being the case, we're going to end our filming right now. Be well, and be careful in the snow.